19. Before we start the formal agenda, just a couple house items. Stated if silence during the meeting and off track. And secondly, not been to a meeting before. As we go through the agenda, it's going to be a little stilted for a while because we have format. So we're going to sacrifice time in the so we're not quite normally are, but every agenda present the item, city staff present on the item. Go up. Everybody who desires also has to have with that. Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here. Next item is approval of the minutes for March 5th. Do we have any?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 1, grant public utility easement at 17 Washington Avenue, 100 Park.
AT&T is requesting the city to grant a public utility easement, 17 West Avenue. The site is up on the screen. It's a 30-stall parking lot, public park, not owned by the city of Oshkosh. Southwest corner of Washington Avenue and State Street. Area. AT&T is currently planning to extend their service space building at their initial plan was to extend, currently have service running about 2/3 of the way through the park. Here, easement in place. So what they were initially proposed was to extend the service South Lot line and then run it to the building. The city was kind of uncomfortable granting a permanent easement through the middle of the parking lot that could interfere with a future reconstruction site, parking lot. City offered or proposed easement periphery of parking lot along Washington Street. Proposed easement would be 10 feet wide, and city is proposing that the easement would not be an exclusive easement to only AT&T, but would open to other private utility providers, or formerly Time Warner Cable, but other utility providers. So the city attorney's office will be preparing final easement documents. Here's what was submitted by the petition. That is for AT&T, but general public utility easement for other utility. So staff is recommending approval of.
Okay, we've 4 minutes since we already made a mistake. Let's take a step back. Do we have any site inspection?
Not just.
No, for this. One item at a time. And then we accept staff reports. Now, technical question. Seeing none, but here for public item. None back. Mission.
Motion. Ending the record. Stated.
Put.
Second.
Right. Unless we have any discussion. All right.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
on to item number 2. Street right-of-way dedication at the north 100 block of Oshkosh Avenue. Like it?
This is a right-of-way dedication request by the city, 1600 block of Oshkosh Avenue. Screen, I have aerial photo of the site and the proposed right-of-way dedication. This is more or less a extension of previous dedications that were done last year to widen Oshkosh Avenue, a 90-foot wide right-of-way. Widening of right-of-way is to allow for the redesign of Oshkosh Avenue. The proposed right-of-way width compliant with the city's the widened right-of-way is approximately 4 feet wide by 270 square. The wider right-of-way will accommodate four-lane streets, turn lane, provide enough area for public sidewalk and terrace area for terrace. Dedication is shown on a CSS by property. The owners get right away to west of the property. Staff is recommending acceptance of the right away.
All right. None? Anybody here for public? Like it?
Make a motion to adopt.
Second. Any discussion? Aye.
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 Item number 3, industrial design standards variance to allow front facades. Materials. Do you have any? Part of the record?
So, item involves a property. Oshkosh Corporation for another for Fisk Avenue. So here's the subject site. You can see it outlined there. Just an aerial of the site. Last year, we looked at an addition that they have been working on putting onto this original building that is shown on this aerial here. We looked at a design standards variance for that. Now we're looking at the original building. So they wanted to focus their attention on the original building now that they've got the addition pretty far along and they've been making progress on the site, I believe. Here is the eagle view of that property. Obviously you don't see the addition there, but you can see again just another pretty vivid image of what the original building looks like. I guess it could be zoomed in a little bit, but you get a sense of that site there. There's some agricultural sites around there. There's a few parcels owned by Oshkosh Corp there, and then you can see the freeway there along the east there, along with Washburn, the plain view there. The site's on the corner, so we're looking at the facade there on Fisk, and then the Washburn facade on the east side of the building. They'd be focusing on for the purposes of this variance request. Just another context picture looking at the site. You can see the corner and then Washburn, which becomes plain view to the south, and then Fisk running off to the left of the screen there. And you can see that building. You know, it's a metal-clad building. I think it was built in 1988. You know, a little over 30 years old at this point. So we'll talk about that in a second. But nothing too, you know, not a home run architecturally. Nothing significant. Purely functional. It's a vehicle training center and facility there. This is here, some more context, looking down Plainview to the south there, or looking down to the south. Fisk would be to your right there. You can see the freeway on the left. And then looking down Fisk here, and then their vehicles there, stored out there. This is just a floor plan of their original building with the addition. So we would be looking at this facade here, and then this facade, this here. So Fisk could be down to the south here, and then Washburn is over to the east. Here's some elevations. I believe that's the existing elevations there, just pretty much metal cladding, and then, or paneling, and then some windows, some glazing, pretty much minimal glazing there on some of those facades. And then here are the proposed elevations. So they're coming to us because they've had an issue with salt, and so road salt during the winter, with the metal paneling that goes all the way down to the ground more or less. They've had some rusting out of some of those panels. It's not very sightly. It's obviously, they need to keep it up. And so they wanted to address this. They got the addition in progress, so they wanted to look at the original building. They wanted to come up with a functional solution and enhance the aesthetics of the building. Applicable ordinance for anybody watching, primarily for industrial buildings, we're looking at materiality. So for this one, or for all industrial buildings, there is a minimum requirement for Class 1 materials for facades facing street frontages. You have to have at least 15% of your facade area Class 1 materials. So it could be brick or stone, it could be glazing. The metal paneling is technically a Class 4 material. The precast that they are proposing right here and here is a Class 3 material. So right now, they are non-conforming. And they would basically be going from non-conforming to non-conforming. They're not coming into compliance technically by ordinance, which is something that we as staff have traditionally required. So that's why they're here for a variance, because they're not going to be using any Class 1 materials and meeting that requirement. They're basically maintaining the glazing and just using a Class 3 material in place of a Class 4 material. But the precast panels would be about 3 feet high, and they would just run around the base of the building to try to protect against some of that salt exposure that right now has been an issue. We as staff discussed this internally, and we discussed it with the applicant, and we believe it will enhance the exterior appearance of that building using those precast panels. And I know you can get different grades of concrete that hold up to varying degrees of effectiveness against salt. I'm not sure exactly what grade this is, but they do believe, the applicant believes, and the designer believes that this will have an impact and will also help against that salt and prevent rusting there. You can get a sense from these perspectives here, looking at this building. So there's the addition over there, and then this would be the Fisk Avenue facade, and then you have the Washburn facade here, so you'd see from the street and from the corner. Just some more images showing those panels. So staff recommends approval of this variance request with these conditions. One condition would be that the facade work shall be completed in accordance with the submitted drawings. The second would be that any additional work involving the exterior of this property would be filed as a separate request and come through us for review and approval.
All right, thank you, sir. Do we have any technical questions for the city staff on this one? Kathy?
The drawings there were a different color than the actual building, which I believe is red. Is the building gonna stay red? Will it continue to be red?
I do not believe that they mentioned changing the color of the metal paneling that we can see if they're here, if they can come up and speak to that, but
Okay.
they did not say anything to my knowledge that I can remember about changing
I'm
that.
just interested in the color of the panels being compatible.
Sure, that's a good point. Yep.
Other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Is the applicant here?
I don't know if I see him, actually.
Is the applicant here today? I do not. All right. Public comment is closed. Back to the commission.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendation is stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right, discussion?
Yeah, my
Yep.
color issue, will the staff be able to make sure it's a compatible color? Or is it,
We're not changing the panel though, just the lower panel, correct?
That was my understanding of
Go
it.
back to the picture.
That's what they're showing.
and that looks good,
Yeah, it does.
that's not red.
Oh, so yeah, so you're,
That's the question is that what it's going to look like, or is it
because
the same red?
I'll go back to the pictures, it's red. The actual pictures,
Currently red.
rust maybe, but
Kind of see there.
Well, I mean, we can inquire, their submittal shows a gray color. That's what we're going with. So if it changes back to that, we can always bring it back. Based on their submission, it looks like it's gonna be gray. We have to go on, so.
Okay.
We would, what am I missing?
We could just add a condition that would be a complementary color. Is the concern that it's red or just that it's complementary?
no, that the color of the panel be complementary.
We could just
Whatever.
add a condition.
Sir? Would you like to add that condition?
I would.
That way we don't bring it back.
So the condition is
The panels be a complementary color to the
To
lighting?
the,
side, the
Whatever they-
siding be a complementary color to the new,
New panels be a complementary color with the existing siding.
correct.
yeah.
Got it, Mina?
They'll tell me tomorrow.
They'll tell you tomorrow, all right. Other discussion items from us? I will say, if that's what they have, it looks a lot better than the way it looks now.
Oh, it does. I like that.
So, yeah, I just hope it looks like what they...
We'll follow up.
Okay, then if there's no further discussion, let us vote. Oh,
We made,
yeah, we made a motion and
Oh,
second
okay.
for
All right,
discussion.
just
We're
wanted to
following
make
this
sure.
very strict agenda here.
All right. Hint,
Aye.
Kiefer,
aye.
Tiger,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Ott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
On to item number 4, general development plan approval for a multifamily development located at 3054 West 20th Avenue. We've seen this before. Any site inspections to report? Kathy's been there. Oh. And then we accept the staff report as part of the record. Your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as mentioned, this was originally part of the February 19th, 2019 meeting of the Plan Commission. At that time, the item was laid over due to some concerns between both neighbors and Plan Commission related to the location of the driveway in conjunction with the adjacent CBRF units. So just to review kind of some of the basics of the site, here's the site. It is an MR12 PD zoned parcel. Right now, it is a vacant parcel. It does have some vacant multifamily zoning to the east of it, excuse me. The existing CBRFs to the west of it. South of it, we do have single-family residential across 20th. So here's an aerial of the site. As you can see, there was a stormwater facilities constructed on site as part of some of the previous approvals. And just a little broader look, the context of the area. So here was the original site plan. As you can see on that site plan, the driveway was relatively close to the property line. Here's the revised site plan from the applicant. So originally the driveway was 22 feet from the adjacent CBRF building. The applicant has just over doubled that. They are now proposing the driveway to be 46 feet from the adjacent property. They also have moved call it the southwest building, approximately 20 feet to the northeast as well to try to get a little bit more spacing. There are some environmental constraints on the property of how far they can move that building, so they have tried to adjust it. They are also proposing, I think I've got a zoomed in image here, proposing to do a fence along that property line to further try to buffer or mitigate that driveway location. As this is still a conceptual drawing, Staff could continue to work with the applicant at the Plan Commission and Council's discretion to look at either maybe some enhanced landscaping, berming, fencing options at the SIP level to maybe even greater buffer this driveway from the adjacent use. But the applicant is at least conceptually showing, at minimum, maybe looking at a fence, possibly going even further than that. I know Mr. Bowen did provide a email, though he's not able to attend, talking about some of his concerns. Excuse me. Here are some of the proposed conceptual building elevations. As this requires a base standard modification to go from the maximum 12 unit buildings allowed to 42 unit buildings allowed, some of the concerns that Mr. Bowen expressed in that email were, with the large scaling and massing of this structure, looking at doing some enhanced building elevations over just the bare minimums. Now this, again, is only a GDP with conceptual level requirements, but staff agrees with some of those concerns and that with a larger building than would typically be permitted in this district, we are going to look to the applicant, if they move on to the SIP level, to enhance these buildings beyond just the base code requirements. There are a number of ways that could be done, but we are going to want the applicant to exceed those base standards to help mitigate some of that massing that a larger building would have. So those are the changes as outlined from the previous request. So staff does recommend approval of the general development plan with a couple of conditions. First, base standard modification to exceed the maximum allowed 12 unit building to 42 units. Building elevations shall be enhanced beyond the base code requirements for multifamily development to mitigate the increased building size. And again, those final building elevations obviously will have to come back to this body, so we'll get a chance to review and take a look at those. And then final design and construction of a pedestrian trail shall be required as part of the SIP. If I can go back to the site plan, during the initial request for the single family development that was here previously, they showed a pedestrian path around the exterior of this site to kind of hook in with the larger pedestrian trail system that's in the area. We just want to make sure the applicant understands that even if he has approved this request to go from the original single family to multifamily, staff still feels it is vitally important that that pedestrian trail be constructed as part of this development. We want to make sure that connectivity with the increased residential units there, we want to make sure they have that ability to use that trail system. So we just want to make sure he's aware that that will be required to be constructed as part of this project if it moves forward.
Is that it, sir?
That is it.
All right, technical questions. Kath?
Yes, in my site drive-by, I was wondering where the new driveway was, how far east it was. And
Clearly, not the right side.
You have the.
relative to the drainage pond,
Can you zoom out one? Let's go back one more. So, I mean, looking at that
Not
site
very
plan, it
close.
would basically go from about, basically the western edge would be about here. So approximately looking at it, starting just inside of where the existing one does, and then heading east for the 24-foot drive. So it would be, they're shown in about this area.
okay. And the private road would remain because that's their road, the assisted living properties road.
This driveway?
Not
Or
that,
this?
but no, the gravel
This?
beyond,
Well, the applicant would
just
have.
past the parking lot, yeah, right in there.
This would have to be removed. This is on the applicant's site. Now, there is some stormwater cleanouts that are in this property. So we've discussed with the applicant and Department of Public Works some options of using grass pave or something, because the Department of Public Works will still need to get access into some of these structures that are in here. The majority of this gravel would be removed, and we talked about using grass pave or something like that, where it's going to look like, and I know Steve's coming up here, that it would look like a natural area, but still give the Department of Public Works the ability to access those structures.
Okay, so nobody would be accessing the drive north of about that curve where in the parking lot area. No, way down in right there.
This driveway would have to go away as well. The whole
Okay.
driveway would need to be shifted over. This driveway's on the applicant's site,
Oh.
so the entire driveway would essentially shift over, and this doesn't work on there. This access drive would no longer cut down here. It would continue straight and hook into this driveway. So you wouldn't have a double. The whole driveway would physically be shifted to the east.
All right, right now, that's all I have.
On item number 2, or on condition number 2, you used the word enhance, which can mean a lot of different things. Is there a chance this would have to come back here again?
Yes.
It has to come back for an
Okay, with
SIP,
SIP,
period.
okay.
So it's something to be addressed at
Good.
that
So
time.
we're trusting you guys to understand the feedback you've received. Got it. Yes, Tom.
I appreciate the modifications that have been proposed to alleviate some of the concerns. I just have to go on record as hating the straightaway, as I always do, so.
All right. How do you feel about that, Councilman? John?
Looking at the proximity of the floodway to the northwest of the northern two buildings, and the fact that it actually cuts across the northernmost building there, I mean, is that floodway for like 100, is that like a 100-year flood area? Is that I'm just thinking that
Where-
It says floodway.
it says floodway right across, yep,
To the
all the way across, and then it cuts across that northernmost building. Nope,
Down here?
no, it's the racetrack just below the pond.
North.
Left assisted
Oh, up
living
here?
building.
Yeah, see it?
Now the applicant's here in our Department of Public Works, and we've had some discussions. Some of this floodway stuff is being changed as part of the maps we've been working on with you. So this is still showing the previous. There is still some changes that can take place to that floodway.
I think we still have to do a Lomer in there, no?
Correct.
I think it's still showing floodway through that. It's gone, but I think it's still showing up in there according to our elevations.
Correct. The current topography that was the topography that was used for the flood study doesn't match the current conditions out there. With the LiDAR data was from before the grading was done for the previous one. So there's actually a finger coming up through the middle of the southwestern building right now that comes through, and not the northern one. So they will need to do what's called a LOMAR, letter of map amendment, to change that and get that squared away with what the actual condition.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Was there any consideration to, at the 20th Street exitway there, to having that be a left and right kind of exit out, more like 3 lanes, 1 lane in, 2 lanes out, to alleviate some of the traffic concerns that?
This is a commercial, can they go 30 feet, I think, for multifamily?
Residential.
Yeah, so they're only showing a 24-foot. I think they could actually go with a 30-foot curb cut for this type of development. So you could be kind of a 2 in, 1 out, 2 out, 1 in type curb cut or driveway setup could be permitted. No, Steve, is this only 24 is multifamily?
30-foot, but with the, you can't get the multi-lane
Yeah, you
at the
need-
30-foot, you
you need
need 36.
So in order to do that, we would have to look at a base access control variance as part of maybe the SIP, if that's something this body would kind of want to see.
Steve?
I drove past there yesterday, and going out 20th, we have, there's a Tippler, then there's a church, then the assisted living, all of which is basically 1 story. Then we have this 4-story kind of popping up. And what I'm seeing here, I know this is not the final product, but it's kind of ho-hum. I mean, it's like a shoebox with balconies. It's architecturally very.
Is that a technical question?
It's not a technical question.
Oh, yeah, can we make it look better? Is that technical?
Well, that'll be on SIP.
That's,
This is just general development.
I think the word enhance too. I think elevations enhance.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're hoping to see a draft. Other technical questions? Okay. Now we're open for public comment. Anybody here from the public to speak to this item? If you'd like to step up, state your name and address so we have it for the record, and be succinct if you can.
Gonna be
Tom?
applicant first, usually.
It says request statement from applicant, and they're there.
That's not the applicant.
Oh, that's not? Oh, that's the anti-applicant, right?
First would
Pardon
be,
me.
first would be comment.
Applicant should come up first if you're here to speak
Other
to
side of the
this.
driveway.
Yeah. I didn't mean that exactly
Yeah.
the way I said it, but you know.
If you look on,
Oh, that's right. I knew they
I
were.
have it.
My name is Mark Mertens, 420
Yep.
Concord Drive, Brookfield, Wisconsin.
So, you have anything to say? Would you answer a few questions from us to kind of address?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Who wants to start? Go ahead, Ken.
Is that the furthest east you can put the driveway?
We did run into some engineering concerns with regard to the utilities that are already in the driveway, the one that was originally proposed. And we actually had 3 alternatives, and this is the only one that's really economically viable to be able to get it done. So we have it as far east as we can possibly get it without creating a non-access point to the cleanouts that are already in the sewer system and the utilities that are in that existing road. We're looking at it as gravel, but it's an existing road, so. So we did go as far as we possibly could.
Other,
And,
go ahead, Ken.
well, now I'm seeing the picture I wanted. The utility pole, the phone pole and the utilities, ground utilities, where is, your driveway is just east?
The driveway would be in
just right-
here.
Just to the west of that, that's, yeah, that's one of the obstacles, right? Yeah.
And that's the preferred option, is where you've got it.
Where it
Basically,
is.
there's no other option going further east.
Right, exactly. It's as far east as we can push it.
Other questions for the applicant?
Was there any consideration of doing a 36 wide, in-out, left-right kind of?
It's too big.
Quite honestly, that wasn't discussed. Steve did make some comments as it relates to the regulations that either allow or disallow for that, which I'm not privy to. But I'm hearing that if it's a possibility.
I know the YMCA has that, just down the block, they have a left-right out.
Sure.
Typically, we do that, and typically we do that in situations where we're dealing with a commercial, where we're generating a lot of trips. So in a commercial center, or the Y in institutional, housing developments, we generally don't see those kind of trips that are generated, so we haven't seen a lot of those. Not saying that we couldn't require it, I'm just saying from experience standpoint, we just don't see it, we don't see it generating a lot of trips where you're gonna create a backup into the site.
Other questions for the applicant as long as he's here?
The applicant did provide a video of their development in Holman. Did you want to?
That would be great. Yeah, our intention is to put a development in here that knits well into what already exists. This is a project built by the builder that will be building this in the La Crosse area, and it gives you a little bit of a feel for what it'll be.
Other questions for the applicant? John, I see your hand.
Just after watching the video, and I understand this isn't the SIP part, this is just general development, but are you planning on putting air conditioners in like I saw on?
That actually, if you looked at the other renderings, they do not look that way. We're aware that we're not allowed to, and we've addressed that in the renderings that were first shown. You noticed that you didn't notice them, but now you notice them. So they are gone. So yeah,
Okay.
we have addressed that already.
Thank you.
Good catch, John. Any other questions for the applicant?
And just so Mr. Mertens is aware, there's going to be that condition that we have to work on enhancing those facades a little bit. So between now and getting the SIP, we're going to have to, depending on how this goes, we're going to have to sit down and talk about that.
And then
Understood.
just a reminder, with our new process here, after public comment is closed, we invite you back if you have anything to say.
Sounds great.
To address some of those things. All right,
Okay,
thank you
okay,
very much.
thank you.
Now, time for additional public comment. Come on up.
I better address the air conditioning thing early.
Hi, thanks for hearing us again. Again, I'm Attorney John Schuster, Caliber Law here in Oshkosh, a real estate attorney and business. And I'm here with Linda Carlson, who owns the assisted living centers that are in the front of the property there, that you've seen kind of in the overhead pictures that they were showing. We've had a chance to review the plan, and we've got a couple new faces, so I just want to make sure that they understand our concern. We don't think the new plan in any way abates the concerns that we've had regarding this particular development. Specifically, it completely changes the character of the neighborhood. As a reminder, this was originally planned to be 26 single-family condos, okay? And now we're putting 3 huge buildings, 4-story buildings each, with a ton of additional units. We expressed kind of at length at the last meeting, our concerns are Linda's facilities, which have been there now for multiple years, are licensed to do dementia and Alzheimer's residents. And obviously, that's a very sensitive population, that particularly to volume of traffic and concerns. More importantly, we're also concerned about what this is going to do exactly to 20th Ave. As everybody knows, there's a major issue out in front of Traeger Middle School, and then we've got the YMCA. We are going from 26 units now to up to about 252 cars and all that. We have a handout today that we just want to show you. We've spoken with a couple apartment developers. I don't know if there's enough copies, but we have to get one. And one of the big things that you have to remember is these cars aren't just going out in and out, one time a day. They're not just leaving the property and then the next day coming back to the property. This is in and out completely. So according to that and the numbers that we were given, is that a typical apartment building, sometimes it's 3 to 4 times a day that somebody's leaving with their vehicle. In simple terms, that puts it at over 800 vehicles a day leaving in and out of that entrance, which something we've also heard people say is a drag strip on 20th Ave. So this is a major concern, and we're reiterating that this drastically changes the nature of the property and the look, right? I mean, we're now talking about 4-story buildings, and as you know, and as was noted here, if you go up and down, those are 1 to 2-story buildings along that entire area. So you're going to see those from far away, and I think somebody made a comment last time that I thought was really relevant. They said, you're going to see these things from Highway 41 potentially. So we strongly oppose that for that reason. I'm glad to hear people bring up some wetland concerns as part of this, because you see there's kind of wetlands on the map. And even with the developer's plan here, they're not even specifying which order the buildings would be built in. Is it going to be the southern buildings first and then up to the north? And to point out, these are going to tower over Linda's existing facility. I think moving the road 22 feet to the east it doesn't solve any of these problems or concerns that were previously brought up both by us and by the Plan Commission, from understanding from last time. So. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to address you again, and my concerns haven't been really relieved by these changes in the plan. It's still, if we were to zoom in on exactly where that road is in comparison to the building, 22 feet, I mean, it's just several car lengths that they're going to be going past my residents' bedrooms where they sleep. And I have great concern for the traffic in the area, but specifically for it's on the property. These 800 cars potential coming and going at all hours of the day and night. This is a very, as John said, sensitive population. I specialize in dementias and Alzheimer's. That is my entire population, 50 residents. That's 50 residents, approximately 150 plus family members. So we're a community out there. It's not just 2 businesses. It's a community for seniors that moved in because they like the serene environment and they need that quiet serenity. They enjoy the outdoors. With these buildings going up and their patios, they'll be looming over where my residents are out enjoying the outdoors, and it is, it's a great place for a nature trail. We see deer, we see turkeys like everyone else, and all kinds of wildlife out there that they enjoy. Deer and fawns, geese, ducks, those wetlands. You know, it depends on the time of year. It fills up quite a bit in the spring, and there's a lot of waterfowl back there. My envisioning this nature trail, it's going to be behind those buildings, and people that are trying to enjoy the trail are going to be looking at these huge buildings as they walk by. To me, that doesn't seem what it was intended for. With my residents and their well-being, I feel as though I need to be their advocate. They have dementia, they have Alzheimer's, they're not able to speak for themselves. The things they do tell me is how much they enjoy the views from their windows, they enjoy the outdoors, but the safety issue, and they, you know, I believe someone on the Plan Commission brought it up, that they're not just sitting in their rooms, they're outside and they're enjoying the outdoors, and with all the increased traffic, it's very worrisome to me. The nighttime, you know, when you have apartments, 126 apartments and potentially 2 working persons in each apartment, people are going to be coming and going all times of the day and night, all shifts of workers, where right now it's really quiet there. That would be like, to put it in perspective of where this road will be compared to their bedrooms, that would be like putting all of those cars, you know, 256 cars are going to be allowed coming and going in your neighbor's driveway, going past your house continuously. These residents will be disturbed, their sleep patterns, which leads to, you know, their well-being is, it can lead to hallucinations, the headlights coming into the windows, the noise of, you know, we've all heard the different noises of traffic. It's not always just cars, you know, that are paying attention to any kind of speed limit or how they should be. And no one's going to be able to control that. It's going to happen. I think with that road being moved, you know, it's a great gesture, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's just way too close to the buildings, and it's going to be dangerous. And the folks that live across the street, the homes, they're going to have a heck of a time ever getting out of their driveways with the traffic all the time. I just don't see it as fitting with the area. The map you had up before that showed the residential development kind of behind Traeger, and then it went west behind the tree line in Sawyer Creek. Those homes come almost up to that property. I can walk out on my driveway and see them through the trees. They haven't been made aware of any of this. I counted it, there's 80 homes in there. These buildings will be all they see when they look to the west, and it's gonna, it just does not fit with the neighborhood. It's all single-family homes. They're just gonna tower above it, and I just do not think it's compatible for the neighborhood, and it's certainly not safe for my residents.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir.
Hello, everybody. Dennis Zach, thank you for allowing me to speak in front of the commission.
Your address, please?
It's 2121 Morningstar Lane.
Okay.
So it's across the street from the CBRF that we're talking about. I've been living in the area of Green Bay for the past 20 years, for the past 13 years in the village of Howard. I've been working in the city of Oshkosh. This would be going on my 3rd year. I really enjoy the city. I really enjoy working here. Talking to my family, it's my wife Michelle, my daughter Olivia, who just turned 6, put that on the record, and then my son Xavier. So talking to my wife and me driving on 41 back and forth to Green Bay, everybody knows that's a pretty hectic drive. It's not very safe. Talked about long-term goals and what we want to do. Talked about I would like to move to Oshkosh to be closer to family and my job. So moving to a place in Oshkosh, where would you pick a house? Where would you want to live? We looked at different areas of Oshkosh, and we saw my daughter's going to Traeger Elementary School. My son's going to the daycare at the YMCA. There is a lot of traffic from Traeger Elementary School in the morning at pickup. There's a lot of traffic coming into the YMCA. So with the CBRF stating that there's already a lot of traffic, and people like to, as they start heading out of town, they like to kick it down, and we hear that. Picking that location was very important to us because of the houses, the neighborhood, the CBRF, the nice area, and we saw potential of development where we wanted to raise our family. We were very disturbed when we heard about this development. The reason why, because we were under the impression, and we did our research, that we were looking at condos in that area. So when I come to the meeting today and I hear talking about such details about the driveway and where it's going to be located, I had to take a step back and think, oh my gosh, had they already made the decision and now they're just talking about little details about air conditioning points, about moving the driveway? No, my understanding was we were bringing this to the commission to talk about this, to have these conversations. This development here might be a great shot in the arm for the city of Oshkosh pretty quickly. But if you're looking at long-term goals in range and you're looking out taking on more the town of Algoma and what you want to develop there, honestly, my wife said to me, I don't know, are we going to move? We found this house. This house was a little more expensive, a little more money than we wanted to pay. But we loved the area, we loved the house, we loved the subdivision and the houses that are going in there. If this development comes, I've talked to other neighbors, I think your development is going to slow down for actually houses in our own subdivision and the Morningstar Lane that Cypress development has brought up. So those are my concerns. We moved here, we picked up everything to go to that location. That was a spot that convinced my wife, yes, we'd like to move here. Mayor Steve Cummings mentioned that if you're looking out there, and I please promise, do a drive-by, but don't just go to the CBRF and look at other places. Come to our subdivision, see what houses are coming there, see what we're kind of developing over there. And it won't fit into that landscape if it is a 4-story building. Now, I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm not here with you every day. Do we need more apartments in Oshkosh? I don't know. Just driving around, there seemed like there is a lot of apartments in Oshkosh already. So I don't know if this was a need that was brought forward to us. So thank you for hearing my comments. I don't know if my wife has anything to say.
Well, just one thing, sir. This is the second time this item's been before the commission, which is why we've gotten to the level of detail we are, because we've already talked about it once.
But it was, okay, so it's been approved?
No, we tabled it and brought for them to.
Okay, I was just confused with the level of details about talking.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's been approved, so why are we already talking about where
It's not been approved.
Okay, well, I was confused why we're already going to the
It's just-
detail of talking about.
Taking a second crack at it at this meeting. Come on up, man.
Michelle Zach, 2121 Morningstar Lane. Just to add to what my husband has already outlined, we did our research moving here to Oshkosh. We came in from the Green Bay area. We looked around. To be totally honest with you, I was sold on the town of Algoma until we found this division, the subdivision, this lot, where the property taxes would have been cheaper if I would have built the same house out there in another, just the adjacent town. So I just want you to hear that. If you're looking to expand the subdivision that we're in and sell the actual lots that are sitting there empty, people in our position to buy a home in that price range are going to think twice about buying that house with those towering buildings next door, with our children in the daycare and the school right next door, with all that extra traffic. That just doesn't feel safe to a family that's looking to kind of expand here in that area. So just
Thank you
wanted to
very
add that.
Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir. Oh, ma'am first and then sir. Yep.
Tammy Kemp, 1829 Vinland. I am the dietary planner for Brookview Assisted Living, and I can personally attest to the traffic volume from several years ago when my car was totaled by a parent coming out of Carl Traeger School. They thought I was turning right. I was in the left-hand lane. That street is so overindulged with vehicles at this time already. Add a couple hundred more, that is the most ludicrous thing you could even imagine. Not to mention a driveway and expanding it when we have one entrance to the facility for our supplies, for emergency vehicles, for me coming back and forth to do my job as well as the other employees. This development, I mean, it's out of place and it doesn't belong there, and the traffic alone is just, it's not acceptable. And go down that 20th Street, morning, noon, or night, there are children everywhere. Between the Y and the school, they can't even get across the street from Traeger to YMCA afterwards. Pay attention to that. This isn't an acceptable option to the city of Oshkosh. Keep it down 1 level, 2 levels possibly, condos, period, nothing else. This is not acceptable.
All right, thank you. Next, sir.
My name's Austin, 3390 Casey Trail. So I'm the development right behind there, and I'm the last house. So when I look out there, I will see these these apartments. I am not quite as graceful at speaking here as Miss Nancy or as professional, but I will get my point across quickly.
Thank you.
My wife and I moved here. Veteran, settled here for employment. Did our research when we came here, and that area was one of the best areas that we found that we could settle our house in or build a new house in as far as the city of Oshkosh is concerned. And so we built out there just recently, moved in October. I found out about this. I'm a little upset with the city that nobody who's going to be viewing this place, because they're just across my field right now, potentially, that we were never notified. Had I not heard from word of mouth that this was taking place, I wouldn't be here right now to voice my concern. And there's 80, 90 people back there that I think deserve to know about this, in houses ranging from $330,000, $40,000 to $700,000 homes just a few houses down from me. And I don't know how a 4-story apartment complex helps retain property values right next door to us at all, let alone traffic concerns, the safety concerns. Everybody's beat on that. Let's just look at what the development is out there. The city approved a bunch of new lots out in my neighborhood. They've approved some lots in that gentleman's neighborhood, some expansion. How are we going to sell them when we are now renting to people that can live in the same neighborhood for half what my mortgage payment is? And the only benefit is that we're drawing more people out there for no reason, really. There's a lot of places in the city of Oshkosh where we can build a big 4-story apartment complex. But when I went out there and I met with my developer and their developer, and I called the city and I talked to the tax and the planning commission at the time of us building, there was some condos going out there, and I thought that was more than acceptable. I was really hoping for like a 9-link golf course. But at the end of the day, we're finding out that we're going to put in several hundred units out there, or 200 and some units out there. I don't see it. It doesn't seem to make sense. It doesn't jive with what's out there at all. You're more than welcome, any of you, to come drink a cup of coffee with me on my porch. We'll enjoy the turkeys and the deer, and then you tell me that you want to wake up to these apartments just 200 yards away from me, please. Come have a cup of coffee and tell me that's really what you guys want to wake up to. That's what you built your house for. And then we can have a real heart-to-heart discussion. That's my 2 cents. That's all I got.
All right, thank you, sir. Next.
My name is John Petrie. I live at 3501 20th, right across the street. And everybody has voiced, very valid concerns. The only thing I have to add to it is the safety, that many people, we're gonna have break-ins, we're gonna have vandalism, stuff like that around. I have a child, a 12-year-old child. She plays outside. It's already a drag strip, so I strongly oppose this whole idea.
Thank you, sir. Next. Come on up, ma'am.
Hi, I'm attorney Greta Engel. I'm actually coming from Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. We have a client who's here today as well. He owns one of the CBRFs that's right off of 20th Avenue there that Linda helps run and do everything there. I just want to read a couple points. He shares all the same concerns that are being said today, but also the fact if you want to go back to a couple slides to refresh your memory for it, there is that essentially wildlife area be back behind all these condo buildings. We're curious if there's been a perk test done at all to see what the impact would be, or the idea of if that sanctuary would still remain, what the waterfowl would be like, where they would go if we're just going to, hopefully they go away magically, or if they're going to be then in every neighborhood's backyard and causing a little bit of chaos for them. And so keep an idea of what impact that would be, along with the floodplain and what construction would be like. And there's a reason why that garage and parking is not underground, because it can't be. That's a marsh, it's a swamp, it's not built for this. And what kind of building are you gonna put up where you can't go underground like that? And the final part I wanna reiterate for everybody is with those CBRFs and what the concerns are for safety for the neighborhood, for the children, for all the adults there, but for those people that are there that are residents, that's where they're going to also live, and that's their houses and their apartments where this would be directly affecting. And if you'd be willing to have your spouse, your parent, your grandparent living there with this ongoing, where every night cars would drive by, their headlights would shine into the windows, and they get woken up and they would be disturbed, and that their nice calm area right now is going to be disrupted. And if you'd be willing to have someone live there and pay someone to make sure they're safe there. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next, come on up, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Wayne Waganke, 20320 West Mill Creek Trail in New Berlin. Actually, I own the land. I'm also the developer of the assisted living facilities. I built them, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And at the time, Linda was my tenant, because I always I build assisted living facilities, and they're all rentals. Our original intent when we acquired the piece of land was to build apartments back there, but unfortunately my partner passed away, so the site has just been sitting there for the last 10 years or so. When we build facilities throughout the state, I've done about 50 buildings like this. They are heavily insulated. The residents really don't hear any traffic that's going by. We build them next to railroad tracks, next to the interstate. We build them next to apartment buildings, or apartment buildings come later. It's kind of a transition use from one area to the next. So all of the facilities that we've built throughout the state, nobody's ever had a problem with traffic. The residents rarely ever leave. As I said, we build them next to railroad tracks, expressways, in industrial park, or in office parks. And so the argument that there's a lot of traffic for the residents really isn't a problem. The buildings are virtually soundproof on the inside.
Yep, sir.
Anyway,
Let's not lie.
Sir, ma'am.
so I just wanted to comment that the assisted living facility is a nice transition into the next use. And if the next use is apartment buildings, they work very well next to apartment buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Come on up, ma'am.
My name is Paula Harvad. I live at 3351 West 20th Avenue. Right next to, I found out who a new neighbor is over there in that subdivision. My husband Craig is also with me. We are, based on the basic information that we have so far, as a general rule, against having that type of complex in the neighborhood. I think it defeats the purpose of kind of the whole neighborhood concept and quality of life and where people choose to live. I have a couple questions, and I'm not sure if anyone can answer them. First of all, the sign on the property, I drove past it this afternoon, still states that that's a condo development, so it hasn't been updated, that the plans have changed. My next question is, does Oshkosh have a need for multi-unit apartments? Has that been assessed around the city? Another question I have is, what is the current capacity rate for our multiple unit apartments? Are they sitting empty, and we really don't have a need for that? If it reverted back to the condo, would it be owner occupied or rented? What are the sizes of the various units? Are we looking at one room, one bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? That'll say a lot about the overall population that will be going there. What is the cost for the condos, for the apartments? Is it going to be affordable? Right now, that is a major issue statewide. We are doing apartments, and if that's what goes through, are they going to meet the needs of the people in the community? In the flyer that was provided, in the notice that we actually received stuck to our door on Sunday, so we kind of scampered to be able to get here and get out of work to come. It shows in the picture only 4 guest parking spaces. The pictures on the demo showed a few more, it looks like. But for 126 units, 5 guest parking spots just doesn't seem close to being enough. Will there be, another concern I have is the outdoor recreation area for the residents who live there. You talked about a pedestrian trail, but are there going to be playgrounds, picnic areas, sandbox, other community areas, so the neighborhood could really be developed? I don't see anything like that. I just see boxes dropped for people to move into. Will the developer build sidewalks on both sides of the street entering and on 20th Avenue for access to the school district, the Carl Traeger, and for the YMCA? Right now, there are no sidewalks, so it is very dangerous for walkers, joggers, bikers, all of us out there. What is the targeted resident that they're looking to occupy these, and what type of an impact is that going to have on Carl Traeger? Is that going to displace some of the current individuals who attend school there? Also, what is the impact on the wildlife in the community? We're already, as a general rule, development pushes wildlife out further. I kind of like the occasional deer that traipses through my front yard, and the turkeys scare the bejeebies out of me, but that's part of it. The concerns I have, first is safety, physical health. The dramatic increase of traffic on 20th Avenue, it's already a little bit crazy, especially if you hit class start times for the Y. Everyone's racing to get there at the last minute to get their spot. I live just to the west of that, so I don't see as much of that coming in. Right now, there's only one access road to the area, and so I'm thinking that's going to be a safety issue if people can only get in and out of an area with one access road. Current speed limits are rarely, if ever, followed. Just before our house, it's supposed to be dropping down to 35 miles per hour. I don't have a speed gun, but it's scary out there sometimes when people come right in off of K and when people are gearing up to head out west of Oshkosh. Let's see. Will there be, one of the concerns I have is, will there be any protection or fences around wetlands, ponds, for the safety if they are families with small children that are going to be potentially living in the apartments, if that is our choice, and that is not something I want to see. There's a need for traffic signals. Currently, there is nothing west of Oakwood. It's a straight shot. The other concerns I have to do with mental health and emotional well-being of people that might live. We need to be looking at creating neighborhoods and communities, not just buildings. There is a need for green space and recreation areas wherever you are looking at putting densely populated, potentially populated areas. Oversaturation of people in small space can lead to increased stress and tension, which can lead to other societal problems.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next.
Hi, my name is Renee Richards Groff. I'm at 3256 West 20th Ave, and I wish I was better prepared today. I apologize, but I heard about this very last minute and made sure to get out of work early so I could come here and express my concerns. So I was concerned before I got here, and now after seeing the drawings and the proposal, now I'm really concerned. And I don't have anything new to add, but I think that if you are in opposition of this and you are here, it's really important to get up and voice your concern. So I will say the traffic is one thing that really concerns me. The speed limit is not enforced whatsoever. And so, as other people have said, I think you said you're around the 35 miles an hour. By the time they get to my house where it should be about 35, there's no way people are going 35. And people have said it's a drag strip. I would like to say it's quite literally a drag strip where I've had to call the police before where people were drag racing and have starting horns and signals. So the traffic is completely out of control. No one slows down for the schools. Environmentally, I'm concerned. I think that I would sincerely invite anybody to sit in my driveway for a couple hours and agree that this area can handle more traffic and that volume of cars. I think when we're talking about 250, that's the best case scenario, not the worst case. So again, like I said, it's a little bit redundant. I am just going over the concerns that other people have had, but I do think it's really important that you hear us out on this. I just think I'm going to be completely honest, it's really ugly to me, and I can't imagine sitting out my backyard. I moved to this area for a reason, and looking at this. I don't think any one of you up there would sincerely want this right next door to you.
All right, thank
So
you.
thank you for hearing me out.
Next, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Nancy Bongert at 3374 West 20th. So I'm the little parcel sitting in the corner, so this would basically be my backyard. It's been interesting. I too just found out about this at the last minute, and I listened to the words that were stated. Will exceed base standards to mitigate massiveness and have it knit well in the community. If we think about what that says in and of itself, it's a no-brainer where that takes us, okay? I have been a really good neighbor. I've been there for a long time. I'm not there much. I work too much. I have been very laid back about the unmaintained, undeveloped land. The grass is not mowed. I call once a year and just ask if it can be controlled to some extent. You know, I've been a good neighbor. I have some improvements to do on my place, which I'm embarking upon. We have the fortunate snow dump in the wintertime, so all night long, if you're trying to sleep, you know, we have the trailers banging. And again, we understand the city needs a place to go with the snow. You know, it's been a dumping ground. The city has wrecked some equipment because of the long grass and the unmaintained lands around me to both the east and the north. So we understand, and we have not complained at all. But when it comes to something like this, again, your own words and everything that everyone else has pointed out just point why this might not be a good idea. I can comment about the traffic. I work in the HR world, and sometimes I think some former employees might be going down 20th and aiming for me when I'm out snowblowing, because it's not only a drag race. I mean, I swear they try to hit me. It's terrible out there. I would invite any of you to come out on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, not middle of the afternoon, not just a casual drive, but the Y traffic along with the school traffic. It's a real issue. So I know you're hearing duplicate comments. You know, again, it's in my backyard. I would welcome the condo development. I think that that's what we were all under the understanding of. Have no issue with that type of multifamily if that's how you register that. This is just very interesting. So would please ask you to just consider this for our neighborhood.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay?
Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir.
I'm Mike Blunk, Cypress Homes, 2139 West College Avenue, Appleton. I'm the developer across the street, Sunrise Estates, and we built, developed 21 lots on 10 acres directly across the street in kind of a country feel, and I guess we thought that was what the area was going to become. I would just rather see some lower density, and I think the traffic would be a problem. That's all.
All right, thank you, sir. Who's next? Come on up, sir.
Jeff Meister, 3249 West 20th. That's my little thing right on the east side of the YMCA there. I gotta say, on that board, could we have that one overhead shot where they show the there was another one that was that one right there. You know, right above the blue thing that's a subject site, you see the yellow line going right to left. From that point back, that's all wetlands. So if we go from where that yellow line and hits that blue line, then we come down on an angle, you know, I say there's less than half of that parcel that's really gonna be buildable. It's all wetlands in there. I have no idea how we're gonna put, you know, you might be able to get a dozen houses in there or condominiums, but 3 big buildings in there, I don't think that's even possible to do. I think, you know, you'll find that out at some point. The idea of going from 12 units per building to 42 is, I don't know, I hope somebody did a study, because I'd refer to that as madness. I really would. It's so many people coming and going out of there. It's crazy. You know, I read this, it says the proposed planned development project design does not detract from the areas of natural beauty surrounding the site. The proposed architecture and character of the proposed planned development project is compatible with adjacent nearby development. The proposed planned development project will positively contribute to and not detract from the physical appearance and functional arrangement of development in the area. Except for this huge chunk of downtown Milwaukee dropped in here. I mean, come on. I can't even believe this. The idea of going more than tripling the size of this, it's madness. I mean, it's off the hook, man. You know? And as far as parking, there's nobody going to have 1 car per unit. There's going to be at least 2 cars per unit. If it's a family, there are going to be 3 cars per unit. People are going to be parking all over everybody's lawn, going in and out of there. And Nancy with all this in her backyard and all of those old people with that right on top of them, I can't comprehend that that anybody is even considering it. I mean, I'm sorry, but man, I mean, it's been enough trouble living next to the YMCA with the traffic and everything, but this is just wild, man. I mean, this is off the hook. 250 cars coming and going daily. That's way underestimated. You know, it's man. You know, the noise, the people living on top of each other. You put too many rats in a cage, they kill each other. You know, it's.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. But
well, let's hope. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just too much in a beautiful little rural community. The actual address is 3490 of what we're talking about here, not 3054. What we've always done, everyone in the neighborhood has always gotten together and said, you know, what we really want is single-family owner-occupied homes. And you know, like Cypress Homes guy, they come in that field and they put in single-family homes. We have no issue with that. And that whole site that is going to be developed by, I think Mr. Roos still owns it, but Wiesenberg is going to put single-family homes in there. That's terrific. I mean, we can't stop progress, and everybody's got a right to make a living, but and profit. But this is too much. You know, single-family owner-occupied homes is what we always said. People have pride in ownership. They take care of their property, and when you have people renting units that, you know, they're more transient. They don't care. You know, you go to work and there's some garbage on the lawn, you don't pick it up because you just work there. Or you go home and there's garbage on the lawn and you pick it up because it's your property and you have pride in that and you want to take care of it and maintain it and you want to make improvements on it and you know, so it becomes something someday. Man, I gotta say, not only is this going in the wrong direction, but to more than triple this is madness.
okay, thank you.
You know, you stand up right now, you could ask these people, give me a show of hands that think this is plain madness. All those people raise their hand. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
Ed Robert Shaw, 2150 Morningstar Lane. I was here for the first meeting also. There's been two supporters of this project. That's the developer and the land seller. One's going to profit from the sale of the land. The other one's going to take the rent checks and take the money out of the community. I haven't seen anyone else here that lives in the neighborhood that thinks this is a good idea. Another thing is the 252 cars and parking spaces. That's just the people that are actually living there. That's not their family, their friends, visitors, or anything like that. So there's going to be way more than that amount of traffic and cars coming and going. And the last thing is, it was originally proposed 26 single-family condos. Now you're going to 126 apartments. If you do the math, it's a 500% increase in traffic going and past the schools and the YMCA, and that's just the people living there. If anyone wants to have their name in the paper that a child gets hit after this was voted on for a 500% increase in traffic past these public facilities, it's just mind-boggling. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
I'm Doug Bossert. I live in Leawood, Kansas. I'm one of the owners of the assisted living properties. There's been a couple of subjects that have not been touched on. I'd like to touch on them. Can I approach that?
Absolutely.
Okay. The school that is right here, the elementary school, middle school, it's filled to capacity. They have already contacted the developer to tell them that there will be no children allowed from this school, or from this development, to be able to come here because they're closed. They're full to capacity. That means school buses will be stopping right here. Those kids will have to walk on this very narrow street, waiting for a school bus down here on the bottom. This whole area is subject to be in and out only. There's no other exits, there's no other anything. If there's any kind of a traffic jam or anything else, how do fire trucks get in there, ambulances get in there? It's a nightmare. Can you imagine 252 cars leaving in the morning going to work, coming out here? They'll be piled up all the way back here trying to get out. My street will be blockaded completely for my employees to come up here and pull in. And the gentleman made a comment about how wonderful a building he's built. We've had for 3 years in a row, the basement floor, not the basement, the floor in the living room has buckled from water pressure. This entire land is swampland. Nothing but cattails, nothing but swamps, nothing but water. My property should never have been built on, never. The walls are all cracking. It's just a very, very sad situation. And now we're talking about putting 3 monster, ugly buildings. Right, it's gonna be in the corner, let's keep moving. It'll be right here on this corner completely. And then somebody mentioned a fence going in there. My customers have beautiful windows. They look out on the east side, watching the sun come up, and we're talking about putting a fence there. Wait, see the green area there, right there? That's where the fence is gonna be at. I wouldn't put a fence there. I wouldn't blockade my client's view, and it's gonna damage my business. So that's the 2 major objects I wanted to make. I thank you for the time.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else here to speak to this item today? All right, then public comment is closed.
No.
My daughter would like to say something. Olivia Zach, 2121 Morningstar Lane. Never mind. What would you like to say, honey? Don't put the buildings up.
All right, thank you. Public comment is closed. Does the applicant have any further things to say regarding this? You have one more shot before we turn it over to the commission. Okay. And we ask for a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
I will so move.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now let's discuss. Kathy?
What's going into the east of it on that vacant property, is that, I don't remember if we approved,
East of
family?
of this one? No,
Yes.
that's zone multiple family.
It's all multifamily.
And no, there's no development plan that we know of right now?
No, it's a straight MR12 zone, so that wouldn't be required, well, it would probably be required to come in through a conditional use permit, that's about it.
Okay, multiple family is what we used to think of as approximately R3.
That would have been, well, that would have been.
I know, that's what it is now.
Yeah, it's MR12, but that would have been R3. Likely, yeah, because we only did R3 on the west side of the highway, generally.
Okay, right now, that's all I have.
So it's 1 to, it used to be 1 to 2,000 square feet, I think was the density, something like that. I can't recall, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah, 12 units per acre.
All right. Other discussion points? Let's go, Steve and then Tom.
Thanks, Tom. I've heard repeatedly over the last few years that Oshkosh lacks housing at all price points, and we hear a lot about, affordable housing, and certainly these apartments will not be affordable housing for low income. The city's pretty much landlocked as far as where we can build new residential areas. We've put a lot of time and effort in our, rehabbing our older neighborhoods, but yet people do want newer homes. There's not that many places to build anymore. And Casey Meadow is Casey Meadows adjacent to this, or?
To the north a little bit.
The north, all right. We want to keep young families in Oshkosh, and we have to be able to supply them with homes or places to build homes. I would much rather, long-term, and I mean long-term, see this become single-family and let that neighborhood grow. I think if something this magnitude goes up, it'll be younger families, more than likely children. If the school is at capacity now, where are these kids going to go? Has the school district been involved in these discussions at all?
Well, school district is aware, so we make them aware about it.
I just think for the integrity of the neighborhood, and we're the future of the city, for keeping families here, not having them move elsewhere, or the town of Algoma. I can't support this. To me, it's land that should be made for single-family development.
Thomas?
Is there any part of the approval process where the commission can add a condition to require speed bumps on that access drive?
Reasonably related to the request, sure. I wouldn't see why that.
Right now, I'm not convinced that, as I go through the standards and what it is that I need to do for this particular thing, it meets the majority of those standards, and as such, I would feel obligated to approve it. However, I'm not convinced that the health and safety aspect has been adequately addressed by both the petitioner and the city on this one, and therefore I will likely be voting no.
Sure.
Josh?
Try and keep this relatively short. One thing that we're going through right now, and obviously we all get confused in it, and a lot of the people that are here don't understand the process. This is a general development plan. This isn't the actual site implementation plan. This is just an overall of what's going on. That's not saying I'm for or against it. I'm just trying to explain it to you. General development means this is what they want to do. When they come back later, that will be with what they're going to put in. With that being said, I wouldn't accept these designs that are going in right now if this were this implementation process, but it's not. I do have a concern about the impact on the property values, especially because that area of Casey's Meadow that's going to be expanding up just to the north of it, that's not cheap housing that's going into Casey's Meadow development. They're getting more expensive as they go out. I know that because I have a friend who just bought one out there who's right next to Chet Wiesenberg, and I know how those property values are expanding out. I would hope that if this does go forward, that we can find some better way for the driveway to get it closer to that detention pond, or if they have to do something with the pond, I don't know. There's the impact that's going to be on Traeger and the YMCA. Good point about traffic signals out here to slow down. That would be to slow down traffic in general. That's something maybe the traffic review board, if they happen to get wind of this, could actually think of on their own, or address on their own. I'm going with a lot of things telling me not to, but I'm going to support the general development plan, but I'm going to be very hard on them when they come back for their site implementation plan. I'm not going to accept these box buildings. I'm not going to accept, they're not going to put this as an eyesore in the middle of what's a beautiful area. So it could be, I mean, while they may get the vote today, they may not get the vote today, they're not gonna get off easy when they come back here, and I think everybody on this table agrees with that. I see a lot of heads nodding. So I hope the developer's taking notes on that, and I hope we can get that building a little farther away. If we do move forward with this in the future, I hope they can get that one building farther away from the assisted living home as well.
Okay, thank you.
I think my opinion on this would be that if I would even think of approving, it would not be a fourth-story building, number one. I would rather go back to either single-family resident or condos. But if it's gonna be built at all, shouldn't be any more than two-story max. And that's gonna cut down half the traffic, half the people, and I wouldn't vote for this the way it is now.
Go ahead.
I am a neighbor of this area. We live in the Fox Chase subdivision. We've lived there now for 17 years or so. Again, we built here just like the people that spoke out today. We bought in this area. We didn't build. We did build onto the house, but we bought here because of the single-family homes, the proximity to Traeger Elementary and Middle School. I have two kids that have gone through there now, and then another one that's currently there. So we've seen the traffic issues. We've been a part of the traffic issues for the last 15 years or so. And with the YMCA there too, a frequent visitor of that too. I know what the traffic is like out there, and to support something like this that be dropped into that area is just I can't even fathom voting for that. It just does not fit with the neighborhood, with the developments. I feel for the people that have bought or lots or developer who's trying to sell lots. And Casey Meadows area as well, when that expands further to the south, it's going to be extremely hard to sell those lots as single-family homes with this apartment complex here. So, my wife and some others have started a neighborhood association in this area, and look forward to building our neighborhood up. And I think something like this is just going to really deter or detract from what we're trying to build there. So I will not be supporting this development at all.
Thank you. Next, Kath.
Well, we have to deal with the fact that it is zoned multifamily residential. And so I don't know if we're gonna have single family coming in here.
Probably not.
What bothers me, well, I don't like the road. I don't like how close the one building is to the assisted living. Although they've moved it some. They've tried to accommodate. The idea of headlights, I thought, yeah, there's gotta be berms, there's gotta be enough fences. The gentleman says, well, now then they can't enjoy their view. Well, no, I guess they wouldn't be able to. But what's worse, the headlights or, not having a view? What bothers me the most is the 4-story. I've decided it's just enormous. I'm sorry we don't have 2-story, 12-unit buildings or 2-story, 20-unit buildings, something like that. Probably the developer won't be able to make this work without that number of units, but perhaps he could. So I'm going to reluctantly vote no.
All right. Go ahead.
A quick question for the city, then a couple comments. The height of these buildings, that's allowable under code, correct? If I'm reading the report correctly? All right.
Correct.
So
It does fit within the maximum allowed height for MR12 zoning.
Okay. So first off, I don't think it's our job to decide if this should be single-family or multifamily. I think basic equity says that we need to have a diversity of housing stock in the city, and Oshkosh is a city. I understand this is a more rural part of the city, but this is a city. Neighborhood safety is not our mandate. I appreciate those concerns. Those things matter. For me, it comes down to density. And when I take a look at the helpful binder you all gave us, the issue about the character of the proposed plan development, is it compatible with adjacent nearby development? That 500% increase figure kind of jumped out at me. And I do think that the transition here into this higher density is a little harsh and probably not compatible with the neighbors. So I will be voting no.
Okay. Go Go ahead, John.
Just want to ask one question of city staff. If, and I'm guessing this isn't going to happen today, but if this were to be approved, would they be able to downsize, I mean, we're not saying today, go ahead and rush with four stories, are we? Or are we saying, yep, you can do you can do four stories?
Yes, they'd be coming back with they'd be getting approved in concept for what the development pattern is that they're proposing right now. They're not being proposed for the final architecture, final site planning, or anything like that. The GDP allows them some comfort to move forward, to spend more money on engineering, planning, architecture, things like that.
Okay, then I won't be supporting this today because 4 stories is just too much in that area.
All right, anything else? Okay, I think everybody and everybody has spoken at least once. Then I think we are ready to call the vote.
I will have to make a motion to adopt.
The motion's already done.
Pardon?
Motion
Yeah, we
been
already
moved and
did.
seconded.
This was the discussion after the
Remember?
motion. You could have done your call to question at any time.
Okay.
We've been going a long time.
I'm glad you didn't.
All right.
Hintz,
No.
Kiefer,
No.
Weigert,
No.
Perry, Lot,
Nay.
Crop,
No?
Cummings,
No.
Ford,
Nope.
Wojtek.
Yep.
Right, motion denied. 2-7, is that right? 7. Oh,
2-7. I said yes. We have
I
2.
thought Mott.
Andrew and I.
No.
Voted yes.
No.
Oh, you
I voted
voted
You
no.
voted no?
Nay.
Okay.
Sorry, it sounded like a yay.
I said, yeah.
Oh, I heard the nay. I was just chuckling when you said it.
Was that a yay?
All right.
That was a no.
This moves on to the city council.
If
Sorry.
not pulled, yes, it moves
not-
on to,
Right.
moves on to city council.
All right.
Keep that.
On to item number 5. It's a public hearing for zone change from suburban mixed-use district to suburban mixed-use district with plan development overlay, approval of a general development plan and specific implementation plan for the property located at 2625 South Washburn Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, wait. Any site inspections from our,
Yes.
okay, yeah, they have them?
No.
Then we accept the staff report as part of the record. On to you, sir.
All right. So this is a request for a zone change from the existing SMU to SMU with a plan development overlay. And the request also includes a request for GDP and SIP approval for a contractor yard. So the site is one parcel, about 4.17 acres in size on the west side of South Washburn Street, south of Highway 44, just north of the Outlet Mall. It's currently used as a car dealership, and the surrounding area is commercial uses, also zoned SMU. So here's the subject site. So they're proposing to convert the existing building into headquarters for a full-service remediation contractor, which is Acquire Restoration. They're currently on Oregon Street, and they've outgrown their site there. So the site will be used to store the contractor's equipment, tools, and company vehicles. They will use the overhead doors on the north and south sides of the building to access the building with their equipment storage. They did state that no machinery or tools will be stored outdoors. The proposed contractor yard use is not permitted in the SMU district, and that's where they are applying for the zone change to have the PD overlay. And with that, they would request the base standard modification to allow the proposed contractor yard. Staff does support the zone change request to include the plan development overlay, as that does provide an opportunity to improve the site from its current condition. Also, staff is in support of a BSM for the proposed use, as the proposed land use seems appropriate for the area, and the associated parking lot work that they are requesting to do would be an improvement to the site overall. The site is accessed with shared driveways on the north and south sides of the site. The applicant is proposing to remove a large portion of the asphalt parking area in the front as well as along the side. Here's the proposed site plan. As you can see here, they're removing some of that asphalt, and also here, and they'll be returned to green space and landscaping. And they'll also be removing gravel areas to the rear of the lot. and they're restoring that to green space as well. The asphalt parking lot will be milled and resurfaced, and the concrete aprons will be replaced as well. The parking lot includes 11 stalls for customer and employee parking in front of the building. The reduction in parking lot size is appropriate for the site, as the contractor yard use requires less parking than the existing vehicle sales use. Public Works has noted that stormwater quality treatment requirements will be triggered due to the removal of a large amount of impervious surfaces, and finalized stormwater management plans will be approved as part of the site plan review process. Here's the landscape plan. So currently there's some deteriorating landscape beds in front of the building. The zoning ordinance does not require additional landscaping because there's no increase in paved areas or building areas. We'll be replacing those landscape beds in front of the building with new landscaping beds, which will include 2-foot-high stone berms and a combination of evergreen and deciduous shrubs, and will also include some existing trees. As far as signage, they plan to reface the existing ground sign and restore the existing LED sign if possible. For lighting, they did submit a photometric plan. It does need to be modified so that they have the required 0.4-foot candles for all parking and circulation areas, and we can address that as part of a site plan review. For building facades, they're proposing no major changes to the existing building. However, they will be replacing the roofing as that is starting to fail, and they will be repainting the exterior of the building to a light gray color, and the mansard on the front of the building will be painted to a navy blue color. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the rezone, GDP and SIP with the findings in your staff report, and the conditions that a base standard modification be approved to allow contractor yard use in a SMU district, and a lighting plan must be modified to meet city lighting code requirements.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions? Go ahead, Thomas.
Can someone pull up a street view for me?
Site right here.
Thank you.
Other technical questions? Okay, then we'll move on, open the public hearing. Apparently we don't have to vote on that, so the public hearing is open. Does the applicant have any statement to make? Come on up, sir. And state your name and address so we have it for you. Well, you saw the last hour.
Yeah. My name is Jeff Edmonds, 1609 Wirehorse Creek Road in Oshkosh. The only point that I want to make is the lighting plan. I did resubmit a lighting plan to the city. The only part that does not meet the requirements is if I can come up there, actually, I can show you.
Yeah, absolutely, it'd be easy.
It's only like a 10-foot span. Do you have the photometric plan?
We don't throw the photometric in there.
No. The photometric plan that engineer created, the only spot that does not qualify is this corner right here. Because the light that we're gonna be putting on, we're going to be removing 6 light poles. They're car dealership lights, big sodium bulbs. There's 6 light poles here. They're owned by Alliant Energy. So I'm gonna remove all those lighting, which obviously that's a lot of pollution, and reduce the lighting down just with wall pack units on the building. And in order to meet the city's requirements with the 0.4 to 0.5, because this driveway is asphalt, it is nearly impossible to get between the 0.4 and the 0.5 requirement on this lot line. That's why we actually pulled some of the asphalt out in order to meet the lighting requirements. The only spot we can't meet is right here, and this is not even used back here. So either way, we're gonna be reducing the lighting pollution off this property and still meeting the requirements. It's just not this corner. This corner is the only spot that does not meet the lighting requirements. It's the back corner of the property.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir.
I have-
Oh, we had a question for you already.
My question does not pertain to this request, but it does to later on. In the fine print at the end of your statement, it said you'd like to be able to construct mini warehousing behind.
That's the long-term plan is there's
But
two.
and my question is going to be, how would you expect to access that mini warehousing? It looks landlocked.
It would not be on my property. There's two parcels behind the property. Long-term aspiration would be to acquire those two parcels behind my property.
And that those parcels have access to a road.
Yeah, there's an easement with this outlet, that driveway right.
It's not Kathy's.
Driveway at the corner of the blue here.
There's a parcel back here that's landlocked.
Yeah,
There's an easement to get to it.
from that driveway right there.
There's one or two parcels that are landlocked back here. We didn't create it.
All right, okay.
So I just put a note in my objective or statement
Yeah.
that that's obviously my long-term goal. Like I said, we're not gonna be housing any equipment outside. It's all gonna be inside. Right now, our property's on 2721 Oregon Street. I significantly improved that property from the course of time that I've owned it, from 2011 to now. There's no vehicle, actually, the only thing outside of our property right now is vehicles. This property, there's 15 overhead doors, so we can have all our construction, or all our carpenter trucks and our actual fleet vehicles parked inside nightly. And obviously, that way we can keep them loaded and we don't have to worry about theft or people breaking in or scraping ice or snow off. It's a lot more convenient. So all of our tools, it's all like general use construction tools, not cranes like the neighbor to the north, not backhoes or whatever, bulldozers. It's all handheld equipment.
All right.
Any other questions for the gentleman while he's up here? All right, everybody's voice is gone, so. Any other public comment for this issue today? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing, and do you have anything else, any closing statements to make, Mr. Applicant, sir? All right, thank you. Now it's up to the commission.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in staff report.
Second.
Trained.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
This is going to be an enormous improvement.
But one,
Oh, go ahead there.
one thing, I mean, the applicant was requesting a kind of a base standard modification for the lighting plan on the the southwest portion of the site. You want to grant that base standard modification?
Well,
Oh, did,
Do you want me to pull up the lighting plans?
Can we do that now?
Yeah, can we do that on the fly?
hold on, he should have it online.
or we just grant a
And that-
modification to that corner of the plan? Because right now, we don't have a base standard modification for
We
the
have
light.
to add a base standard
Yeah.
modification to it.
Well,
We
so
want
you're
to do
saying
that on
there's,
the fly.
Right now, what the applicant was coming up and saying is we're requiring him to meet the photometric plan. What he was stating is he can't make that work for the reasons that he stated.
Right.
So if we're willing to grant him a base standard modification to allow that light to exceed the light levels at the property line, that's the only thing that I'm requesting that you potentially consider. Mark, am I missing anything?
No, we could modify, right now our second condition is that it meet code. We could modify that to add a base standard modification for the applicant to exceed that code requirement along the south property line.
that sounds good to me. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
All right.
We just want to make sure
Thank you.
everything goes smooth.
Other discussion? I was going to second what Kathy said, that I think this would be a significant improvement to what is there now. Anything else? Think we're ready to vote?
Hints,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Here, aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Item number 6 is another public hearing. This one involving conditional use permit request to establish an art studio at 1675, 1677 Oregon Street. Do we have any site inspections to report here?
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy was down there. We accept the staff report as part of the record. So it's your turn, sir.
Thank you. So here's the subject site. It's located on the northwest corner of West 17th Avenue and Oregon Street. They are requesting a conditional use permit for an art studio, and that falls under the category of physical activity studio, which requires a CUP in the neighborhood mixed use district. So the parcel is about 6,750 square feet in area. It includes a residential unit and a vacant commercial unit, which was recently used as a barber shop. And the surrounding area is residential and commercial uses. Here's an aerial view of the subject site. So again, they're proposing an art studio that will include art classes and a gallery. It will be solely operated by the owner. It'll be open seasonally, April through November, Wednesday through Saturday. The classes will be conducted from 9 to 11 in the morning, with the gallery open from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. They're expecting 6 to 8 students, ages 21 and over, and they will offer private lessons available upon request. They're proposing no changes to the site. There is an existing parking area on the lot, and that has 10 stalls, and that can be used for customer parking. Staff is supportive of the CUP request, as we feel the proposed art studio is an appropriate use for the site, and it should have a relatively low impact on the surrounding area. So staff recommends approval of the proposed CUP for an art studio as proposed, with the findings in your staff report.
All right, technical questions?
Mr. Chairman, just for a point of order, obviously I live in that neighborhood, so I've inspected it. I guess I would consider, because I have checked the property out since we received this, so.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted that.
Thank you for your confession.
The record clarified.
All right, any technical questions? All right, seeing none, the public hearing is now opened. Applicant have anything to say? Come on up, ma'am, tell us what you think.
I'm Barb Schneider. I'm at 111 East Ripple, Oshkosh. I am the applicant and about to be the current owner. Right now it is owned by another party. This was part of my offer that if I can get the conditional use permit, that I will be buying the building and turning it into a small art class unit and an area for the students to sell their artwork if it's of quality work, or just keeping it for local artists that already do artwork, and it'll be an outlet for them to be showing and selling their items. To make it short and sweet, it is a seasonal, as it was mentioned, it's a seasonal April through November, and only so many hours per day. I've been trying to do something like this for many, many years in my mind, and now I finally have the time to do this, and I'm hoping the space to do this. So I'm really hoping this permit goes through so that I can bring in children and adults. I'm hoping to bring in, I was contacted by some homeschooling people, and they asked if I could possibly do some homeschooling, and I said, I don't know. That's something we'd have to look into. Plus, I have to see about if that would fit the permit or not.
Any questions for the applicant, as long as you, go ahead, Thomas.
Any chances there's going to be a hot shop in here?
A what?
Shop, glass blowing.
No, sorry. That would take a furnace, and that would take a lot of, that'd be dangerous. No, thank you. I don't even want to deal with that, never less insurance. That's, sorry. But there is some in Milwaukee if you do want to find some, and there's some in Madison.
Any other questions?
Actually, it's more of a statement. I just want to compliment you on thinking outside the box, because this property's been kind of dull for a lot of years.
About
And
38
I think
years.
you're going to bring a lot of life to the neighborhood in that area.
Just no fires due to.
And you're very lucky that you have parking off of Oregon Street this year. Because if you get into business this year with the Oregon Street construction going on, you're not going to have any access from Oregon Street.
True. That's true.
Any other questions or comments or thoughts for the, all right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other public comment regarding this proposal? Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm assuming you don't have any closing statement to make, madam? All right, we're good there. Then it's on to us.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second.
All right, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let us call the roll.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Ott,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Item number 7 is another public hearing, this one having to do with an official mapping for 30-foot wide river walk along the north shore of the Fox River at 1005 High Avenue, right behind Axel Tech International.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any site inspections? right.
River's still
Guys getting
frozen.
ahead of us here. We accept the staff report as part of the record. It's up to you now, sir.
All right.
River's frozen.
What we're proposing right now is an official map action. An official map action is official action that we take we use the official map to reserve various areas. It's a way to show the current and future owners of an area that the city would like to move forward with this type of development in the future. We do it for roads, we do it for parks, we do it for stormwater, we do it for various aspects. It doesn't claim that area for city use at this point. Once we officially map, we still would have to negotiate easements or actual acquisition. We do it to protect that area from future development. In this particular case, what we're proposing to do is officially map the Riverwalk along. We're proposing to utilize this existing easement. I think it's a 20-foot easement running along the water this way, and then run it perpendicular back this way, and then get back on the existing alignment. So that would be for a 30-foot area. After we would officially map it, what would happen is you couldn't build in there. Or you'd have to come to the council to get approval, or the Board of Appeals get approval to build in something like that. What it would do is, ultimately what we're proposing to do is, right now the Riverwalk, as you can see, it moves up through here, the trail, and then it cuts through what's the forest here. So there's an existing easement that we have for the trail that runs like this. You can see it along here. Problem with that easement is the trail is not in the easement for the entire way. The easement comes up here, swings around, and then the trail for some reason cuts through here and moves back on the trail alignment. We would like at some point to be able to relocate this easement and the trail from this area to this area to get what we've been trying to do is keep that Riverwalk along the trail. So this action will help us be able to set something up like that. But the reason why we're kind of proposing to do this now is the county is in charge of maintaining the trail. They'd like to give it over to the city. The city doesn't want to accept the trail system because it's not in the right place. What would happen is we would have to construct that trail system. So right now the county is looking at, okay, how do we relocate this trail that's coming through here and put that trail along here? So right now they're looking at, taking out all those trees, working with, I think there's a bunch of ditches along here, but they want to relocate that trail along the north side. We'd like to get the official map action in place so we can start some discussions potentially on relocating it into this existing easement area, and then run this way along the Smellman property and then out to New York Avenue. The existing ATC, and there's actually a sewer easement that runs through here. It actually runs all the way up to West New York Avenue. Basically what we're asking is that we officially map that area at this time. We don't have any intention on acquiring that area at this time. Basically we're using the official map action to reserve that area.
All right, I think that makes sense. Technical questions? John?
To the south of where that extends, do we have land out there that's already mapped for the Riverwalk, or was it
So
work in progress?
this way? You're talking
Yes.
about this way? No, the Riverwalk is actually an existing easement to the south, all the way down through the university, all the way down to, Wisconsin Avenue.
So it's already set aside for it.
Correct.
Thank you.
This would be about the only area where it really falls off the alignment.
Go ahead, Andrew.
What's going to happen to the rest of the parcel? Does that remain in whose hands? Is that the city's?
Well, that's all Axle. It's all
It is Axle Tech.
Yeah, the entire property is Axle Tech. They've had different proposals over the years to talk about maybe dividing this off separately, and we've talked to people about that over the years. And what this action does is it says if they want to divide it off for something like housing, anything like that, we'd have we'd want them to know that we'd like to have a Riverwalk going along the shoreline there.
Other technical questions?
Would be a good place for that purpose.
Is this proper, if the treat area, does it require remediation like the rest of their property would, or is that just unknown?
That would be unknown by
That would
me at this
obviously
time.
dictate what might.
Yeah.
Actually, that's supposed to come down to me.
All right, now I'd like to open the public hearing. You're the applicant, right?
City administration.
You have anything to say?
No.
Says here, request statement from applicant.
Yeah, that's,
All right.
I didn't know about that one,
Just
so you just
trying
got
to follow the
my,
rules
you just
here.
got my statement.
All right. Is there any other public comment related to this item? All right, seeing none, public hearing is now closed. You've said your piece. Now time for the commission.
Motion to adopt the findings of and recommendations as stated by the staff in the staff report. Get it straight yet.
We have a second?
Second.
Been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seems like a prudent thing to do.
Thank you.
Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Crop, Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
Item number 8 is a fun one, and it's not a public hearing, so it's approval of the Menominee South Neighborhood Plan. Site inspections. I drove through there the other day, but I really wasn't inspecting anything. It just happened to be where I was going. We accept the staff report as part of the record. On to you, Alexa.
Okay, staff is requesting approval of the Menominee South Neighborhood Plan, which would be the 5th neighborhood plan. The boundary is Washington Avenue on the south, Broad Street to the west, Lake Winnebago on the east, and Irving Avenue to the north. This plan was prepared for the Menominee South Neighborhood Association with the intent to support their efforts in addressing neighborhood challenges and promoting reinvestment. Created during a year-long resident-led planning process, the plan may be used by the neighborhood association, the city of Oshkosh, or partner organizations to ensure that those goals are met. The plan first offers a neighborhood history and current condition, and then the plan outlines 4 priority areas: image, market, physical conditions, and neighborhood management. Each section provides goals, objectives, and then action items. The purpose of this review is to make the determination that the proposed goals and objectives are consistent with the city's 2040 comprehensive plan, official maps, and other city objectives. So staff has reviewed all proposed goals and objectives and recommends approval of the plan, together with the finding that the identified goals and objectives are not in conflict with the city of Oshkosh's comprehensive.
All right, do we have any technical questions? All right, then it's open for public comment. Anybody have anything to say about this plan? Anybody jump up? And we'll close public comment, bring it back to the commission.
Whole thing? Are we already? Pardon? Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Any discussion? Thanks for doing this. These are really nice plans. I think they're really worth the city's time.
Yes, they really are. Excellent plan.
Thank you.
Any other
Worked hard.
discussion? Let's vote.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Crop, Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
We'll just lay your soldier down.
Okay, item number 9 says zone change from suburban mixed use to multifamily residential and approval of a conditional use permit for a group development for multifamily located at the 1400 block of Osborne. And Mark provided a paragraph here.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was the development we had the public hearing for last month with no action. Based on the comments from that public hearing, the applicant is still working on revising plans and has requested that this item be laid over an additional 2 weeks to the April 2nd, 2019 meeting so they can get a plan set together, submitted to the city, so we can do a full review and staff report for the next meeting.
So what are you asking us to do?
Laid over for 2 weeks.
A motion?
Correct, you need a motion to lay over.
All right.
Comment?
What?
Do we take comment on that?
It would be, we have already had a public hearing, it would be the plan commission's discretion if they wanted to try to take any public comment.
There's somebody
I'm
here.
not inclined to
Like-
do that. Till next
I'll
time.
move to lay over.
Second.
Any discussion on the item? Call the vote.
Hintz,
Aye.
Kiefer. Oh, sorry. I messed up. All right, Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Groth,
Aye.
Crop,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Boytosh.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
And I forgot to add before,
Leo.
that we do continue to have discussions on some of the subjects that you know, we heard some of the concerns that we heard with the Plan Commission. So we continue to have discussions between the developer and some of the neighbors involved out there.
All right, thanks,
Discussions are ongoing.
as always. Moving on to item number 10, this is a public hearing for a zone change from suburban mixed-use district to suburban mixed-use district with plan development overlay and general development plan approval for a senior living community located at 2080 Witzel Avenue. Any site inspections for that area? West Witzel? Kathy was out there. Anything else? All right, then we accept the staff report as part of the record, so it's up to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a public hearing on a zone change and general development plan for a senior living community. We're showing a kind of concept background of the area. This is Witzel Avenue, just west of Washburn Street. For reference, this is Fleet Farm. So it would be the parcel immediately west of Fleet Farm and behind them. West of it, we do have a mixture of single-family residential. A lot of these are, I shouldn't say a lot of them, some of these are duplexes, some of these are single-owner occupied. Farther west, then we do get into some multifamily development as well as single-family development. To the south, we have some residential zone parcels as well as a commercial zone parcel. Residential use parcel and commercial use parcel. All of the parcels in front of the property do happen to be zoned commercial at this time. And so here is an aerial of the site. It is approximately 14.5 acre site. Comprehensive land use plan for 2040 does identify this as interstate commercial. The parcel does have a approximately 66-foot wide egress point, if I could find my mouse, onto Witzel Avenue. So a single egress point into the site would be through Witzel Avenue. So the applicant is providing what is generally being described as a kind of age-in-place senior living development. It runs the gamut of different styles of senior living, from duplexes, independent, assisted, enhanced assisted living, memory care. It kind of has the spectrum of different type of units being provided. As such, we did recommend the applicant have a neighborhood meeting, which they conducted on March 5th of 2019 with the neighborhood to discuss the proposal. So the request at this time is an approximately 250,000 square feet of building involved in those several different types. It totals about 225 units, and the building range anywhere from 1 to 3 story depending upon the portion in the phase. Anticipated at this time, phase 1 would consist of approximately 43 independent living, 38 assisted living, and 28 memory care unit. Phase 2 tentatively consists of additional 33 independent living, 24 assisted living, 29 memory care units. And finally, phase 3 would consist of approximately another 30 duplex units. If I can back up here. So obviously to the far northern portion of the site here are the duplex units. These front buildings, just kind of two larger 1 to 2 story buildings, and then a more kind of apartment style, we'll call it an L-shaped building, that is split into a portion of the 2 phases. That is the building that is 1 to 3 stories. And these buildings, again, are a mixture of the various unit types. In order to achieve this use, the applicant must first rezone the property to include a plan development overlay. The city zoning ordinance requires that any community living arrangement of 16 plus units be done as a community living arrangement. Under our most recent zone change, the SMU district does not allow community living arrangements, so the applicant needs a base standard modification to be allowed this use. In order to be allowed that base standard, they must first rezone the property to include the plan development overlay. Staff is in support of both the rezoning to include the plan development overlay and the requested base standard modification. And this is for a couple of reasons. If I go back to the aerial first, the multifamily residential use is a buffer between the adjacent single family and the commercial development to the east. And even though this parcel is zoned commercially, it does not have any visibility either to Washburn or really to Witzel with that small driveway. So the viability to actually develop this as a commercial parcel is almost limited to none. So this type of use is a good infill site for this. The site does include some significant wetlands in the center portion of the site, as well as some gas line easements that run through it. So it does make development of the parcel a little bit challenging, trying to work around some of those uses. They're proposing an approximate 24-foot wide egress, be centered in this 66-foot wide strip of property that goes out to Witzel. The applicant has included approximately 230 parking spaces. These are a mixture of surface, driveway, and underground parking. Typically for this type of use, staff looks at a parking calc, and we would use about 2 spaces per unit for the duplexes and independent care, and approximately 1 space for the memory care and assisted living. Now, the applicant at the time of filing had not provided full documentation on why the 230 units would fulfill their needs, and staff was unable at that time to determine, okay, would we need a base standard modification for this either exceeding or falling short on parking. However, history of these type of uses tells us the applicants generally have a better feel for what parking needs are for this site than a traditional just straight multifamily zoning code would. So staff does want to have some additional discussions, and I've already had some of those discussions with the applicants about why they're providing the parking that they will. And during the SIP, we intend to bring forward additional information, kind of justify why is 230 what is needed for this type of development. Conceptual stormwater management plans are kind of ongoing. So they have been working with the Department of Public Works to get those figured out, and final stormwater plans will be reviewed as we move forward. Landscaping. The applicant has provided a conceptual landscaping plan. Now, there is a buffer yard requirement to the property to the east when you go from the suburban mixed-use district to the, I think it's DR10 property to the west. There is a code requirement for buffer yard landscaping. The applicant is intending to meet this through a mixture of fencing and landscaping. However, as proposed, they're a little short on the requirement. Our code requires 50% of the points for a buffer yard be located on, we'll call the neighborhood side of the fence. They didn't meet that. I did discuss it with them. They didn't quite understand or weren't aware of that requirement, so they are already working to revise these landscaping plans to meet that code. And our code also requires that those screenings be evergreen in nature, so they have kind of that lasting buffering throughout the entire season. Applicant is fully aware of that now and plans to update that landscaping to be in accordance with that plan. That being said, the 2 properties to the south, and they are 2092 and 2088 Witzel Avenue, although they are zone commercial, so they do not technically require a buffer yard, they are currently single-family residential properties. So in looking at that and having some discussions with the owner of those parcels, staff is recommending that they be treated with the same buffer yard requirement the property to the west has. They are single family in nature today, and we'd like to see that continuation of the buffer yard wrapped around to mitigate their impact as well. So staff is recommending a condition be placed requiring that buffer yard to wrap around those parcels. And then a final code compliant landscaping plan would be reviewed as part of the specific implementation plan. No signage plans have been submitted at this time, so during the SIP they will need to bring back their signage plans. So here's just kind of showing a little bit more of a general layout of the property. You can see how they are broken up into a mixture of memory care units and assisted living. And it does kind of break out some of the phasing as well as how their parking layout works. So here we have some concept drawings. This applicant has built a number of these projects throughout the country. So this is their primary development style. So this just shows some examples of other products they've built and what could be expected here. So staff is recommending approval of the zone change and general development plan with some conditions. First, a base standard modification to allow the community living arrangement. And then second, that the property located at 2092 and 2088 Witzel Avenue should be screened in accordance with the 0.4 buffer yard opacity requirements.
And just let me make one comment. I did attend the neighborhood meeting that they had, and I think there was general support by the neighborhood. The only thing that Mark kind of addressed was there was some concern about the buffer yard over here in the south where the residences was. This was general. There was general, I think, support for the land use. The only concern raised on both sides was up as you get into the north where the proposed duplexes are. There was some concern about the land use up there. You got Revs up there, and they have outdoor leagues and things like that. So we made each other aware that we didn't want to create any quality of life issues for the people in the north. So both sides know that, you know, we probably have to plan out a better buffer up there at some point.
All right, thank you, sirs. Technical questions. Is this site, I mean, I live not too far from there, and I know that there's great potential for flood control opportunities in there. Will this actually provide an opportunity to enhance some water storage, or?
Our Department of Public Works folks are back there.
I think they're going to use their own.
Actually, the property to the north is probably even better, the one where the house is or was with the little bridge that gets flooded all the time.
Keenis's house.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question?
Will this design actually allow you to do some flood kind of mitigation stuff through the way they designed it? And I just know a lot of water flows kind of through there.
I was not aware that through this particular site there was a lot of water. I know there's.
I think it's just more the wetlands, just
Okay.
there. I mean,
Well, we're not going to make the wetlands bigger. You can't make the wetlands bigger, and I think with the stormwater, they're accommodating what they have to accommodate for the development. So I don't think
It'll be infill development, so we'll have to
Yeah.
control flood runoff.
okay.
Discharge is the hardest part because it does have to get out to Washburn Street by lay of the land.
Right. Other technical questions? Mine was rather confusing. All right.
fine.
Okay, now I'd like to open a public hearing. Is the applicant here to make a statement? We appreciate.
I'm here.
Come on up, state your name and address, and we appreciate your patience, by the way.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, Mark Hammond, 2108 North 74th Street. So I did prepare a presentation. I want to be sensitive to everyone's time. I don't realize it's late, so I'll just try to kind of just fly through. I just wanted to kind of give a quick overview of our company, and just so you all know. So I am the developer, but we have one common owner. So we develop our property. We have our own construction arm. We're a long-term owner, and then we also operate. So we kind of, there's kind of one single ownership that's all kind of related in our Heritage Senior Living property. So Heritage Senior Living, this would be our 17th property in the state of Wisconsin. So our footprint is really limited to Wisconsin. Oshkosh is the market we've been wanting to bring our product to for several years. And so I'm excited to be here tonight, finally with a proposal and a site. So, just brief history. We started back in 2000. And so Milo Pinkerton's my boss. He's the owner, still very involved. Just couldn't be here tonight. And so our most recent projects, we did open a project up in Kimberly back in 2017. We have properties in Madison, Milwaukee area, Eau Claire area, and this would be our second Fox Cities property. And there's a quick map kind of getting you a sense where we're at. Yeah, so this property would really have three types of housing. It would be independent living, so that's really just an apartment, and we typically provide some housekeeping, meals, outings, that kind of stuff. And then there's assisted living, where there's a care component, and we also provide enhanced assisted living, which is an important piece that kind of helps bridge the gap between assisted living and skilled nursing. So kind of allowing residents to age in place and stay in more of a home-like environment before going into the more institutional kind of skilled nursing setting. And then we also provide memory care as well, which is basically assisted living for folks who have Alzheimer's and dementia. This is just an organizational chart. It just kind of shows this is our corporate leadership team. So we really kind of pride ourselves on being the leader in senior living in Wisconsin. And in order to do that, we have a really strong team, a lot of great initiatives, great partnerships that we have built to really be able to kind of offer the best services to our residents. What we found is assisted living in Wisconsin is in some ways kind of the Wild West. You really see providers that it's not regulated like skilled nursing is. And so you can really have small, kind of independent assisted living operators, and you can have more of the larger. And so we've been really working on doing is ensuring that we are delivering the highest possible quality to our residents, and really ensuring that what we're doing is really the best we can do in terms of our care delivery model. So just to kind of highlight a couple of things, we're trying to bring virtual reality in. This helps reduce some behaviors. It helps reduce the use of drugs, and with our memory care residents, it helps kind of bring back old memories, fond memories, and really helps kind of bring a little joy to their life. The reminiscence rooms and corners in the top right are things we do just to kind of evoke these memories for our residents, these positive memories, and helps really kind of calm them and reduce agitation. The little guy on the left is Jibo, just a way to use technology to kind of engage our residents, helps reduce depression and loneliness. And then telehealth on the bottom right, this is a way, so sometimes it's hard for our residents to get out and see their doctors. Sometimes it's hard for the doctors to come in and see our residents. So what we're rolling out is a way to use telehealth for our residents to talk to their care providers in the comfort of their apartment. We're also seeing across the state a shortage in caregivers. So it's hard, challenging for all providers of senior living to meet the needs of our aging population. So one thing we've thought a lot about and worked on is trying to find new ways to kind of innovate and address these workforce challenges. So this is the project that I think Mark did a nice overview on. It will be multiple phases. I'm happy to address any kind of specific questions after this presentation. Again, want to try to keep this short. And this was just a representative image of a recently built project. Again, we don't have elevations for you, so I just wanted to help give you a better sense of kind of the finishes, the color palette that we use. And then here would be more the interior, kind of representative images again. We'd have a therapy gym for our residents to stay healthy and get exercise and work with their therapists. I mentioned on the top right, this is the enhanced assisted living I mentioned, which again bridges the gap between assisted living and skilled nursing. So we can really bring a high level of care in this kind of home-like setting. Bottom left, therapy pool. Just a great amenity for our residents to get some good low-impact exercise. Bottom right would just be a sense of kind of the feel, the warm feel of our communal spaces in the property. And so, yeah, and I would just to kind of layer into Mark, this is exactly the kind of site that we like to develop. We like being the buffer between a less intensive residential use and a more intensive commercial use. We do like to locate our properties, I kind of say where the action is at. So we're adjacent to retail. Really makes it easier for family members to get out and see mom and dad without having to kind of travel too far off. So it really, we found that makes it more likely that our residents have guests stopping by. It also allows the community just to be more aware that we're there as an option.
All right, thank you, sir. Questions for the applicant, as long as we had them up here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ken.
Show us again the phase one buildings, which ones?
Yeah, so.
That's a good plan there to show us.
Yeah. So phase one would be this, we call it a donut or a racetrack. First floor is memory care and be secure, so it allows the residents to ambulate around in a secure area. Also, the interior courtyard allows the residents to get outside safely without a risk of elopement. Then this is also part of phase one, which is our kind of common areas, and then there's assisted living above. This is 2-story, 3-story, and then this part is the independent living wing, phase one, 3-story building. Okay. This would be phase two, memory care assisted living. This is phase two, independent living. And then the townhomes in the north part of the site would be phase three.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bob.
My brother and his wife, they've gone into an apartment system.
Yeah.
That if it gets to the point where they need care.
Yep.
They can then move into the assisted living.
Yep.
And eventually, if needed, all the way to the end of the, like with the dementia and stuff.
Right.
Is that the way this system
Yep.
would be operated?
Absolutely. So this would be one building, all under one roof. In fact, the independent living would all be built to the state's RCAC standards and would actually be licensed so that we would open this up as independent as folks age in place, up to 28 hours of care per week. They could stay in their apartment. They could move into the RCAC, but then if they did have dementia, Alzheimer's, or required more than 28 hours of care per week, then they could be in this enhanced assisted living area here. So yeah, this kind of allows the resident to. My grandpa did this in La Crosse, and he really liked. Even though he was moving apartments, it was nice to have similar staff and have friends.
Do you have an place like this in Port Washington?
What we do?
I wonder if that's where my brother and his wife.
Okay, yeah, it might be. It's Lincoln Village.
I'm not sure, but
Okay, there's several there. Capri also.
That's why I asked.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Thomas.
So, you're obviously gonna license as a CBRF and an RCAC?
Correct.
Might want to get back to the
Sure.
microphone.
Okay.
The viewers that still remain want to hear what you have to say.
I'm back.
So you're licensing a CBRF and an RCAC?
Correct,
Are you
sir.
licensing multiple CBRFs as you do the growth, or multiple RCACs as well? I mean, you have 4 licensed entities on this property, or just 2?
Yeah, so in this first phase, it would be 2 entities. Likely, when the next phase 2 CBRF would be a separate CBRF license.
Okay.
And the independent living to the north edition would likely be an extension of the floating RCAC license.
And what causes the next expansion? Because in this area, this type of, there's 2 things in this area. This area, there are very few Medicaid, Medicare providers, and it's all, going towards the private pay, which nobody can blame, but there are a lot of them. And it's not a big private pay area for people that are expanding. So my fear is that the developments won't occur as quickly as you anticipate for them development. And with I think 78% turnover rate in direct care staff right now in this area, staffing's going to play a big role in what it is that you do too.
Sure.
What's the contingency plan if you do phase 1 and people aren't knocking on the door?
Yeah, I mean, so this phase, so the initial phase is kind of carrying the cost for the entire piece of land. Certainly it may not be in the next year or 2. It may certainly be something more in the 5 or 10 year horizon, later. And so you could also see other developers come in that would then kind of saturate the market and really reduce the need for the additional phases. So, yeah, certainly our intent would be to not develop the additional phases until we see that supply-demand mismatch where you really see a need for the additional beds. Yeah, good question, though.
Other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Anyone else here from the audience to speak to this item today? All right, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. You have anything else to say, sir? Are you done?
I don't. No, thank you, guys.
Oh, sure. Let's move on to commission action.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Discussion?
I think this looks like a good development, appropriate. We should hold them to the same standards of exterior planning as their video showed.
They have to come back with an SIP.
I would agree.
I know, that's why I'm just saying I would like.
Any other discussion? Well, let's call the vote. Mina?
Hintz.
Aye.
Weigert.
Aye.
Perry.
Aye.
Ott.
Aye.
Groth.
Aye.
Crop.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion carried 9-0.
All right, we're almost there, folks. Item number 11. Specific implementation plan amendment requesting vehicle sales at 1911 West Snell Road. We are familiar with this piece of property.
We are. And here comes Mark to bring us into the whole.
Oh, pardon me. Site inspections?
Not this time.
Not this time.
Not this time.
We drove
Okay,
past
and-
it a week ago.
Huh?
I drove past it a week
It's
ago.
not
but going
exactly the
70
same.
miles an hour.
All right, we also accept the staff report as part of the record. On to Mark. Or Darren, whoever's gonna speak.
Mark's good.
Are you sure?
Done some work on it.
All right. Just do some quick overview. This was at a workshop last meeting, so everyone should be relatively familiar with the site. But just to remind everyone, on December 4th, 2018, Plan Commission record approval of the request with conditions. After additional discussion with the applicant and staff, Common Council referred the request back to Plan Commission at the December 11th, 2018 Common Council meeting. Plan Commission discussed several modifications to the original plan at a workshop on March 5th. That being said, we are located at the corner of Snell and Highway 41. Images of the current site. And then let's dive right into the revised site plan. So the applicant provided this site plan to staff on, I believe, February 21st, 2018. One of the primary concerns and discussion we had with the applicant is the applicant has some semi-trailer storage use as a portion of his business. The previous site plan and conditions placed on that site plan did not allow for that use to continue. The applicant has, stated that that is a vital part of their business and would like to continue that use. So they provided this site plan to staff showing kind of how that trailer storage they would like it to lay out. So staff brought this to the workshop last week. We had some additional discussions. Based on that discussions, there are a couple of things that came of it. So staff and the applicant has identified that they are no longer intending to, wrong mouse. If I can find the mouse. All right, well, the red X at the top, they no longer intend to do the 50 by 50 square foot building addition, so that has been removed from the site plan. They are still intending to approximately double the size of the enclosed storage area. Staff started looking at how the site laid out in conjunction with the trailer storage spaces and some additional, call it transitional parking spots on the site. So staff did start numbering them, looking at them. There are two red X's at the bottom of the screen that you can see. These are two areas that, just based on the dimension of the site layout, staff felt would not be appropriate for the trailer storage or additional parking. So staff is recommending that those two areas be removed, which gets us to essentially 24 semi-trailer parking spaces along the west property line, additional 22 trailer parking spaces along the south property line. In conjunction with that, in a previous request, the applicant was provided with a 10-foot side yard setback, or reduction to, a 10-foot side yard setback along the west property line. The current site plan as shown, the applicant is showing at a 0-foot property line, not meeting the 10 feet they were originally approved for. Talking with the applicant at the Plan Commission workshop, he understands that there was some misunderstanding where that property line is, and now we're looking to resolve that kind of 0-foot setback. So talking with the applicant at the last meeting, there was some discussion about maybe going to a 5-foot area. So at this time, Plan Commission staff is recommending that the applicant be approved for a base standard modification to reduce the originally approved 10-foot setback down to 5 feet. But in a trade-off for that 5-foot setback, staff is recommending that we either, one, fence the property line to ensure that there is no further encroachment, or work with a berm and landscaping within that 5-foot area. So generally, when we do setback variances, we usually recommend how do you mitigate that setback. You're going for a smaller setback. Traditionally, we recommend those two things, fencing or landscaping. This would be similar to those requests we've had in the past, that for that trade-off of the reduced setback, we do want to buffer it a little bit. So there is some additional outdoor storage, temporary outdoor storage area the applicant is listing. That are these spaces, I believe, 115 through 132. So staff is recommending that those the applicant be allowed to use those as kind of that transitional space with maybe a tow vehicle comes in, they can get it on site while they prepare the vehicle either for repair or for moved into the enclosed storage area. We are recommending that those areas be limited to only 7 days that a vehicle could remain in those, because we do not want them to be permanent outdoor storage. We want them to be used as that kind of transition space to help the applicant get them into the site, move them around. One of the additional concerns out of the original request was the limited number of sales. The code had a relatively large requirement for parking based on the size and use of the building. The applicant has expressed that they don't have that volume of staff or employees or customers. So they'd like to reduce the number of required employee customer parking spaces to have a larger amount of auto sales spaces. Talking with the applicant, looking at it, does make sense. So staff is recommending a base standard modification to reduce the number of required parking, therefore allowing the applicant more auto sales spaces. Staff is also recommending a base standard modification. The applicant would like to enclose this additional outdoor storage area. Enclose this additional outdoor storage area with the same fence that the applicant already has. Now, that is an 8-foot metal fence. That style metal fencing would not traditionally be allowed under our code. So the applicant is othermost though. What would you do with it? There it is. So staff is supportive of that base standard modification to continue the existing fence. Does get a little bit of a consistency with matching what's already there. Further, as this outdoor storage area has increased for these trailers, the applicant is proposing a fence along the southeast corner of the property, a wrapper around the south. That fence is located within a front yard. So the applicant has indicated about an 8-foot wood, basically board-on-board fence along the east property line, then transitioning to a chain-link fence along the south property line. Both those fences will require a base standard modification. First, because the 8-foot wood fence does exceed the height of allowed fences within a front yard. Highway 41 is still considered a front yard. So staff is in support of that. It's Highway 41. It makes sense to allow them the taller fence to help with that buffering. Second is, code does not allow any chain link fencing within a front yard. So as the applicant transitions this into the chain link fence, which we feel is appropriate for the setting it's in, but they do need a base standard modification to be allowed chain link fencing. The applicant's also showing some additional landscaping along the south property line, a mixture of arborvitaes. Code requires minimum 4 feet at time of planting, so those would need to be 4 feet when they're planted. So staff does recommend approval of the conditional use, of the specific implementation plan with a number of conditions. First, an 8-foot high solid fence or a minimum 2-foot berm with a solid row of 4-foot evergreens shall be installed along the west property line to mitigate the setback reduction. When such installation occurs, there will be a base standard modification approved to reduce the previous 10-foot setback down to 5 feet. All expanded outdoor storage areas per the site plan by the applicant on February 21st, 2019, hereinafter referred to as the site plan, shall be fully enclosed with an 8-foot high metal fence. There will be a base standard modification for the expanded outdoor storage area to enclose that with an 8-foot high metal fence to match the existing outdoor storage. The applicant shall provide a fencing detail and specifications for that fence. Site plan with staff comments is included on page 6 of the staff report. That was the one that kind of had the color and the numbers written on it for reference. The east and south property line shall be fenced per the site plan. There will be a base standard modification to allow an 8-foot 6-inch high wood fence along the front yard setback along the east property line, and a base standard modification to allow a 4-foot chain link fence within the front yard along the south and east property lines. Base standard modification to reduce the required number of customer/employee parking spaces from 47 to 33. On the site plan, spaces 1 through 15 shall be used for employee and customer parking. Spaces 16 to 50 shall be for the vehicle sales. 51 to 68 shall be limited to the shop vehicles. And spaces 69 through 14 shall be the semi-trailer storage. And spaces 115 to 132 will be that temporary vehicle storage area. All spaces identified with the X will be removed. Site is limited to 35 vehicles for sale. Those are identified as 16 through 50. Tow vehicles shall be limited to parking spaces 51 to 68, And that is part of the original 2006 approval. We would like that to carry forward. After final approval, the applicant shall provide a professionally drawn site plan. Parking lot spaces 1 through 68 and 15 till 32 shall be striped in accordance with the approved site plan. No parking shall be permitted outside the illegally established and striped parking areas. All vehicles in the parking spaces shall be in operable condition for safe and legal performance on a public right-of-way. All semi-trailers and tractors shall be stored within the 24 spaces along the west and 22 spaces along the south. The site/business maintained and operated under the submitted plan. There shall be no expansion without further approval. Outdoor storage of parts, fluid, tires, inoperable unlicensed vehicles, and other automobile service-related items shall be prohibited in the areas other than the approved outdoor storage area. And those storage areas approved outside of that on the plan. Driveway and parking areas shall be brought up to city standards for hard surface. Applicant shall provide stormwater management once 20,000 square feet of total area would be disturbed. At this time, it is not expected that that would take place, but we just want to make sure that applicant's aware that if they reach that threshold, they would have to meet that. Final revised landscaping plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Department of Community Development. Outdoor storage plan and narrative shall be reviewed and approved by the Department of Community Development prior to building permit issuance. So staff does want a narrative and plan describing how that outdoor storage area will be used and how it's intended to be used. Permitted uses shall be those limited to requested by the applicant, which are auto and truck repair, auto service, towing, auto parts and sales, and auto sales. For purpose of clarification, auto salvage is not a permitted use, and there shall be no dismantling or vehicles sold for parts. No vehicle of any type shall be kept in the enclosed outdoor storage area to exceed 6 months. The applicant shall remove the empty scale sign structure located on the east property line. All conditions and required site modifications that are made shall be done within 180 days, and I actually think one might have gotten missed on there.
The 23 in ours.
And maybe I did get mid again there. Yeah, they did. I'm sorry.
Get it?
That's it.
Take a breath. Technical questions. Yes, Tom.
The berm with arbor vitae, what is the space, the placement of the arbor vitae? How far apart do they have to be? Is that something that can be conditioned? Because the reason I'm asking is I think a fence is not going to work, because it'll just take bumping into it once or twice and the thing's going to be over on the neighbor's property. The berm, 2 foot, I don't believe is high enough to stop a truck, and so I'm concerned about the berm becoming a wheel chock rather than a stop. And so then the only thing that we have left is the arborvitae, and if they're spaced too far apart, then it's still a wheel chock and not a barrier.
So the reason we recommended the 2 feet was based on a 5-foot setback. There's only looking
so
at
much you
slopes
can
are reasonable
build.
to height. We've stated a solid fence or solid hedgerow. We could further condition that, if there's a spacing requirement. I don't think our ordinance
It'd be a
does.
buffer yard if it's somewhere.
Yeah.
Pull a buffer yard.
Well,
He knows where it is.
We can double check it
While
he
he's
looks.
looking.
Yeah.
Other technical questions?
We should have had something there for.
Yes.
Is
go
the
ahead, Garrett.
inside fence a solid fence or is it chain link?
The interior, this
Which one,
fence
that one? That-
is where we're recommending the base modification for the solid 8-foot metal fence.
Other technical questions? While we're waiting for Brian, we'll open public comment, and do you have any statements to make, Mr. Ringla?
Yeah, I've been out here for probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 years.
Right.
Our business has grown considerably. This parcel was an M2 industrial when we bought it, and it's been changed by the city gradually through the years without anything, to us. We haven't even, last zoning was changed, I think it was about a year ago, and we didn't even know about it. So I'm not sure exactly what it's zoned at this point.
Zoned heavy industrial.
Heavy
for the
industrial.
Planned development
And I
overlay.
mean, yeah, and it wasn't a planned development when I bought it. It created, after I bought it, it ended up down the road becoming a planned development. So I mean, it's been historically used as a truck repair facility. It had a truck, fueling in there, and, it had parking, storage. This parcel was a lot larger at one time, and it's been chopped off after I bought it. You look at, you set the industrial zoning. I mean, and I think at this point you're like putting time limits on how long something can be parked there is doesn't seem to make sense or work, because I mean that's why it's an industrial. I mean you go to all the other parcels around there. I mean I'm not any different than any other industrial zoning in that use in that area. You go to Zilgus, look at Zilgus's. You go across the street, you got FabMab back there, across the street. I mean, Omni built a very nice building there. I mean, it's nice, but I mean, it's an industrial area, and that's why you guys zone it industrial, for this type of businesses to come into and be at, because you need us. You need us in the city. Without us, who's going to keep your streets cleaned up with the garbage and debris that gets left all over the city? I mean, you got accidents. People are crashed all the time. Every day we're towing accidents in the city. You got to go somewhere. Stuff comes in, goes out. I mean, it's just about as fast as stuff comes in, stuff leaves. But I mean, I looked over the zoning, M2 industrial zoning. I mean, I don't see nothing in there that says that, you got a time requirement, how long something can sit. That's like coming to your house and saying you can only park something in your driveway for X amount of time, or keep something, behind your garage. I mean, that's what you got, the zoning. I mean, we added additional buffing along, because you were concerned about the view from 41. We've gone over and above. I mean, if it wasn't for car sales, I could say, heck with this, I'll leave it the way it is. I stuck money into the building through the years. I added a new, we've tried going through architects. I spent better than $12,000 in architect designs that never got approved by the city. Couldn't get them approved. Got shot down every time. 12 grand out the window for nothing. So I mean, actually the site drawing that I submitted was based off their original architect drawings for the design. So I mean, just, and like even I can have a truck parked out front, but if my name's on it, you can't park it out front. That's why everybody goes on 41. It's for the visual exposure. I mean, if it's parked in a parking area that's an approved parking area, I don't see where the problem is. Why, just because it's got my name on the door doesn't mean that it's, So I mean, I got some concerns with some of the conditions that you're trying to put on. And I mean, the landscaping along the west side ain't going to work. The truck drivers, we've stopped them by putting a gravel berm that sits up about 12 inches, so that tires hit it and stop it. I need to move it a little bit farther in. But I mean, depending on where they got their axle set on their trailer, it will depend on where if they got their axle set forward, they could end up backing over the stuff. You go to a plain view, that's all their trees along their parking lot are all backed over. I mean, the semi-drivers back in. I mean, the berm has stopped them from backing up. There was confusion where the line was, but now that we put that berm in, that it stopped them and it's got them pushed forward, so they quit backing up as far as than they were supposed to. But
Would you answer any questions if folks had them? Would you answer questions?
Sure.
Anybody have any questions? We've talked a number of times, so we might be all questioned out. Okay. Anything else to add?
Like I said, I just have some concerns with the time restraints and the landscaping. The berm I don't have a problem with. Is try to stop, to get the trailers, and then it's working. It's stopping them. And so we've added quite a bit of landscaping. I mean, like I said, I could pull a car sales out of it, and then we're say to heck with everything and keep operating the way I am. I'm trying to work with staff here to get this thing resolved.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else here speak to this item today? Come on up. Thank you both for your patience, by the way. It's been a rather long meeting.
Carl Keys, 505 Fox Fire, representing Omni Glass and Paint, 3530 Omni Drive. The comment that was made about the west property line and the concern on behalf of the petitioner that that won't work, that's what I want to speak to. Some type of partitioning or separation or fence on that west property line is very important to us, specifically because of the encroachment that has been apparent for the last 10 years. And I think in your report, there's a couple pictures showing that. We haven't been able to get that west property line cleaned up, and it's really frustrating because those lots are for sale right now. So I want to make sure that the integrity of that condition is maintained. Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak to this item today? We'll close public comment. Lauren, do you have any other last comments to make?
Lauren, you should probably, you're disputing a couple of the conditions.
This is the first time I've heard of some of them.
We sent you out I'm not gonna get to the point of, we sent it out to you, we sent all this stuff out to you.
All I got is a notice of the meeting. I didn't get not staff reports or none of that.
I don't know how,
I didn't get none of that.
well, regardless, these are the conditions that are being proposed are the ones that if they go through if they go through the council and it gets approved, those are the conditions that are on there. So if you're gonna dispute some of those questions, like you did through your attorney today, we need to get those resolved.
Okay, well, I mean, this is the first thing I found out about them. You never sent me a staff report or nothing. I can show you the papers that you sent me. I don't have here in my office, but there was no staff report.
What?
sent.
Well, it was mailed out, that's all we can tell you.
I can show you what I made. There was never a staff report. If you
Okay.
got a notification of the meeting and the site plan and stuff
All right.
like that.
We'll have to work with what we have. Commission action.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Yeah.
Remind me, there is not a fence along the west property line. Sorry, I'm, floating here with all this. As the gentleman asked for, there's a berm and arborvitae.
Staff is recommending one of two things, either an 8-foot tall solid fence or a berm with arborvitae.
There's neither.
Right now, there is neither.
Okay.
We're recommending one of the two.
And this is along the west side, correct?
Correct.
So I think the concern there is the encroachment on,
Right.
whenever we reduce an encroachment, and we didn't do this previously when we approved this, and probably should have, when we reduced it to 10 feet. Whenever we do an encroachment, we generally buffer that somehow. On this one, particular one, we're concerned about, maintaining the, like Mr. Key said, maintaining the integrity of that setback over there. So that's why we were trying to give it an either or. You can put up a fence, or you can do the berm.
Okay, but either one, if it gets to that point and is perhaps being resolved, his trucks will not encroach onto the neighbor, the adjacent, but I mean that, if you put up a fence, then the truck has to, butt a hole in the fence.
Well, they shouldn't be backing up that far,
Yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, but, okay.
I drove
No, I'm
trucks
just
myself.
stating that's a bottom line condition for me.
Oh,
is
from
that
that, I mean, yeah, that's.
You stay off the neighbor's property.
I mean, the other alternative is he's got a 10-foot setback. I mean, he does have a 10-foot setback that's currently approved right now. So we're just letting him, we're saying, yeah, we'll let you go to 5 feet of that property line, but we need a little bit extra because we're giving you a significant encroachment. What's the setback requirement right now? What's in code?
7.
So I think it's gotta be probably, 20 feet, that's a side yard?
Side yard for HI.
Side yard for HI?
HI.
Go
Real
ahead.
quick, so my understanding with that condition 21 is that the 6-month storage limit is just for the enclosed storage area. The trailers could be out there for longer, correct? Okay, thank you.
Michael.
20
feet.
foot would be the traditional side yard setback requirement.
So it's run that percentage out.
So if we enforce the 20-yard setback, there would be no trailer parking whatsoever along that line without significant modification to the enclosed storage yard.
No, right now, he's approved for 10 feet. So he's approved for 10 feet, doesn't have to do anything, just don't back it, just don't encroach any further into that setback.
So under his currently approved setback, the trailers would need to stop at the 10-foot mark, not could be any closer to the property line.
The whole point of some of these conditions is to grant some base standard modifications to allow him to operate his business, but also to incorporate some organization onto that site.
Right.
So that's why we've been supportive. If you look at that site right now, look at the aerial photo, this area here, regardless of what you're saying, this is not an approved storage area. This is not an approved storage area. The approved storage is, in the old plan, is in here. This is expanded to the south, and it's not even, I mean, it's rung in with a bunch of trailers out here. That's a major concern on our part, just the accumulation of stuff out here that's not screened. So we're willing to give up and say, hey, we'll allow you to put some storage into this area, but we want to know how you're using it, because we can go back to aerial photos. I can tell you, we can see some of these boats, we can see some of these vehicles that have been there for years. That's our concern. So we're trying to, again, get some semblance of organization on site, give them the ability to do it, because we actually do think if you get this fenced in, it will help them out, it will look nicer, but we don't want this pattern to continue on the site forever. So we're willing, again, we're willing to work on all these things, but there has to be give and take on this particular issue.
Right, my concern is that if there's not a fence or a physical barrier, that 5 feet would easily be sucked up by where the axle placement is on the trailer. I mean, it literally could go 7 feet over.
Correct. No, it's some type of chalk there, yeah.
Right.
You're correct. I mean, we can have a discussion with Mr. Langeloff on that, what his thoughts are, but.
Because you can't depend on the wheel. You have to make it to the corner of that door.
Correct.
Other discussion?
Call the question.
Let's do it. Time to vote.
All right. Hints,
Aye.
Kiefer, oh, sorry, Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Grove,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Ford,
Aye.
Wojtek,
Aye.
motion carry 9-0.
We have a couple workshops yet, so.
Motion to adjourn.
You have a couple workshops.
Move to adjourn?
I did move him. but-
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's a
Sure.